members of council, the adoption of the minutes for the meeting of May 12th will be dealt with next meeting due to some vacations and absent time, so we'll deal with the minutes at the next regular council meeting. At this time, I'm going to ask for any disclosures of a pecuniary interest by any members of council. Having seen none, we'll proceed on. If I may, I'd like to ask the council's indulgence to move up an item from communications, item 4, and it has to deal with the advisory committee on the disability. And if you would be kind enough to allow those individuals who are here this evening to make their presentation, I'll entertain a motion to do so. Moved by Councillor Carrier, seconded by Councillor Maves. And we have with us this evening the Disability Advisory Committee. We're going to discuss with us National Access Awareness Week, and I'd like to ask the clerk to do the introduction, please. Mr. Clerk.
Well, the committee's here. I'm actually going to do the talking. I'd just like to acknowledge them. I think most of them are in the front row. Nita McKenzie, Pam Green, Gary Taylor, Jill Taylor, Paisley, Jan Berry, who's our chair, Sandy Bird, who you heard do a wonderful rendition of O Canada. I didn't realize she had such talent, but this is usually the annual visit that we come to council, and part of the reason for coming to council is to proclaim National Access Awareness Week. We've been doing this for a number of years, and the background's included in your package. It started with Rick Hansen's Man in Motion under communications. Rick Hansen's Man in Motion efforts, and we've approved the proclamation every year for probably the last 6 or 7 years since the committee's been in place. So once again, the committee would ask for your approval of that proclamation. Secondly, we'd like to bring attention to a couple of events every year in association with National Access Awareness Week. There's a couple of events. One is the Breaking the Barriers Awards that the Ontario March of Dimes do at Lakeside Park in Port Dalhousie, and that's taking place on June the 5th. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I can tell you that someone from our community will be getting an award that evening, an organization in our community, and there's many awards, but I don't want to let any cats out of the bag for that. And then secondly, usually our committee likes to do something, and as has been our tradition in the past few years, we will be having a barbecue in front of City Hall on June the 4th, and we'd encourage council and people in the community to come and attend that as well. Finally, we will come back to council in the near future. There's a lot of changes in provincial legislation that are hopefully going to make our community a more barrier-free place, and we'll be reporting on that in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion then declaring the week of June 1st to June 7th as National Access Awareness Week. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Carrier. Any comments or discussion? Having seen none, all those in favour? The motion's carried. Thank you very much. I'd like to commend the committee for all the good work they do, and speaking on behalf of those who are certainly challenged. I do attend the Lakeside event, so I'll be looking forward to that presentation, Mr. Clerk, and to the successful recipient. But it's always nice to see those people who are involved in our community giving us advice with regard to disability matters. So thank you very much for the committee being here this evening, and we appreciate your time. On behalf of members of council, thank you. And also, with regard to deputations, members of council, our first deputation this evening then is the Brock Badgers. We have with us members of the Brock Badgers basketball team who are going to be recognized for winning the 2008 CIS Men's Basketball Championship. And I'd like to, if I may, at this time, introduce the team. We have, as you may be aware, some background. The Badgers finished the season with a 29-14 overall record and captured their second national basketball championship in school history. The CIS National Championship was held in Ottawa, and on March 16th, the Badgers defeated the Acadia Axemen 64-61 in front of a crowd of more than 8,000 people. At this time, I'd like to ask the team members and coaching staff to stand, if they would, before us, and if we could just hold your applause. I'd like to introduce the team members. If they could come before the front row, if they would. We have the members Brad Roots, Rohan Steen, Nico Lorio, Mike Kemp, Andrew Ferguson, Sam Breffro, Joe Kendrick, Scott Murray, David Swindon, Jay Fleming, Mike Muir, Owen White, Jordan Johnson, Tim Svidznicki, Dustin Bianchin, and Navanya Burke. And I know that the coaches are here. I think some of them are here. I don't think Mr. Murray, head coach Ken Murray, is not here. But I understand Steve Adkin or Brian Mulligan and Bill Roots are the assistant coaches who are here. And I'm going to call, if I could, team therapist Joe Kenny and Lorenzo Love and Brianna Holmes as assistant therapist. Members of the team, many of the members of the team have gone to other locations. And I guess if I could just have, if I may, at this point, have the team captain come forward. I'd like to acknowledge Brad Root as the captain. Brad, would you come this way, please? And Brad, if you'd accept this on behalf of all the team and on behalf of members of council, presented with congratulations to the Brock Badgers on winning the CIS Men's Basketball Championship, signed this day by members of council and myself. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Team, thank you very much. Most of the team, as you can see, has gone home to wherever they may reside for the summer now that school is over. Myself, Mike, Dust, Brian Mulligan, and Bill Roots are all from Niagara Falls, so we had a large contingent on the team, and we're very happy and honored to be here. Thank you very much.
And having heard that, we anticipated that may be the problem, but we also wanted to, as members of council, acknowledge the individual team members who are from the city of Niagara Falls as well. And it's important that you are here. So I'd like to call with us to come up forward Dusty Bianchin, Mike Kemp, Brad Roots. Mike is here. And also our assistant coaches, Brian Mulligan and Bill Root. Okay. Dusty, congratulations. Thank you a bit. And Bill. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask, if I could, the assistant coaches to make some comment with regard to their experience of the team this year. And we're pleased to have you at our council. I know you've made the rounds throughout the peninsula, but we're very proud of you as residents of the city of Niagara Falls who are involved with Brock University and the team.
Well, on behalf of Brock Badgers, I'm really excited about the boys. When they were 11 years old, I think we started coaching them, and after a dozen years, our dream was fulfilled by winning the national championship. We're proud to be from Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls has a strong history of basketball, and we'd like to carry that on. Thank you.
And again, on behalf of members of council and all of us in the city, congratulations on a great year. The next item on the agenda, members of council, is the matter with regard to the Bob Gale Complex campaign. And there's a number of presentations from our latest donors' capital contributions. If I could call Mick Wolf forward, please. Mick.
Thank you, Your Worship, Mayor Salsi, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Another good news story. As you're well aware, every day our city is faced with a funding request of one form or another. And it's my extreme privilege to be able to share with you on an ongoing basis a money story of another kind. And that's the story of individuals and businesses in this community that have stepped forward to support our eagerly awaited new four-pad arenas complex, the Bob Gale complex. It is the efforts of these businesses and individuals that have given not only of their time and efforts, but financially, that is going to make this project a tremendous success. We're well ahead of schedule in terms of the fundraising. I addressed you a number of weeks ago with an update relative to the corporate naming rights and also from the seat sale point of view. My purpose in addressing you this evening is to publicly acknowledge a number of those individuals who are here this evening who have contributed in such a meaningful way. I'm going to ask those individuals to stand and be acknowledged when I mention their names and the naming property that they have sponsored. I think there are maybe a couple that were scheduled to appear that couldn't make it, but in no particular order. I would like to acknowledge first Marco Pingu and the Pingu family, who have generously sponsored the press box in the facility at $20,000. And Pingu family. We also have with us the Long family, and this one is a very special group. Sam Long is a long-time volunteer in this city as a convener, and the family, led by Peter Long, and if you could all stand, have generously at $30,000 sponsored the convener's room, and this is so fitting given Sam's long-standing volunteerism to this community. Is Martin Highcliffe here? Yeah, he couldn't make it. He was scheduled on behalf of Upper Canada Consultants, and they sponsored a dressing room at the $15,000 level, which we appreciate. We have a significant donation. In fact, what happened here, there was almost a competition. The first in got some of these properties, so some of the more expensive pieces went first. And the Lifetime Financial Planning Group is one company that really stepped up in a big way. And representing them this evening are Alan Filer, his son Aaron Filer, Richard Crabb, and Mike Sketchin at $75,000 sponsorship of one of our community pads.
Very good.
And the last individuals that I'll recognize this evening, the complex will bear his name. And he was, I know, motivated by his daughter who's here. So Bob Gale is joined by his daughter Jessica Friesen here this evening. And just a fabulous donation to our building of $1 million for the building naming rights. In addition to $250,000 legacy fund to help financially disadvantaged families in our community to enjoy the facilities at our new arena. And I would invite Bob to actually step up and say something.
Come on up here, please. I bring my daughter because this is my future, my other daughter and my son, and she bears my grandson, who's now 10 or 11 months old. So I'm hoping 3 years from now, 2010, we'll all be skating together on it. The purpose of me being up here is to sell an item too, and that I've got enough publicity through the papers and that for being here. And good. If you don't know the Filers, the Longs, the Pinguays, and that you're not from this community, and that. So I thank you all for helping out as well on behalf of the citizens of this community. But everybody, my patience in this city is known by everybody. I have none. And in January, in January, when I perceived nothing happening, I called John McDonald to find out what's going on here. I don't hear anything about the arena. Then I find out that Mick has sold and Don Jackson has sold most of the naming rights for the whole arena. A month later, I called and I said, I don't see anything going for these seats. I don't see any setups of, be it golf tourneys, be it anything like that. Called John McDonald again. They've got all the plans. They've got the meetings done. Everything's going according to plan. Now, I've been involved with other cities in this region, too, and I salute you people and your predecessors that went for this arena project, because you're closing arenas and that's one of the reasons my family's involved, because there's good business ideas with this. Unlike other cities in this region that have done other arenas and haven't closed some sites. So now we've got the seat sale. going. And we all know the pink seats are a donation to the hospital. And Mick, I'd like you, if you don't mind when I'm done here, to explain, because it goes on TV, and that's the point of this, for the people to step up and buy the seats for this new arena for the next 2 years and that. Myself and Dave Martin from the Review and Rob McDonald were out to Sacred Heart School in Chippewa, I hope I haven't got that wrong, to talk about donating to the community and that. And their students got together and spent $200. Is it $200 for a pink seat or $250? $250 for a pink seat and the name of their school. I hope over the next 2 years that the people that are watching me now, because people are watching the cost, because take my credibility, take everybody's credibility here on it, and this is a good project. And we hope you step up and buy the seats for this arena, because everybody's coming out to help this. And we hope that it'll be one big weekend in 2010 when this starts. I can tell you it will be a big weekend in 2010 if I have to pay for the whole thing, but this will be a big project and that. So all I'm saying is I hope that the seat sale goes. We have the pamphlets at various stores, My Gas bars, all around. If you can't find a pamphlet to go and buy a seat, be it your school class, be it your community club, be it whatever, then you're not looking too hard and that. So, and I can say things like that, Mayor. So thank you very much for saluting me and saluting my friends here for what we've done. And Mick, if you don't mind, could you please take the mic and explain the cost of the seats? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
As Bob mentioned, we have 3 levels of seat sale. There are VIP seats that are the first 3 rows directly around the ice surface, and they are $500. Then there's another 3 rows beyond that of pink seats, and they're for $250. And $50 out of every $250 goes to GNGH, and it'll directly stay in this community towards cancer research in this city. And we think that's just a great win-win. And then there are the balance of the seats are at $200. And what you get with that is a name plaque that can either be a memoriam or just a salute or just a family name, whatever you choose to put on there. It's our goal to sell all 2,000. We have 3 pages worth of individuals and companies that have already purchased. We're on track. We plan to sell 100 a month. And be done well in advance of the opening of the building, but it'll lead to some excitement. So look at the arenas and at McBain shortly. Similar to the United Way thermometer, we plan to have an arena schematic that will color in the seats as we sell them. And primary purpose tonight was to really thank these individuals who hopefully serve as a catalyst for everyone else in the community to continue on this great effort.
Thank you, Mick. And on behalf of the members of council, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank each of the individual donors for their generosity, their civic spirit, and their community-mindedness. I'd like to say that it's overwhelming to see the support that we've received on this project. And Mick, I know you're still working towards putting yourself out of a job, and we appreciate that. So thank you very much for your dedication, your committee's dedication as well. So once again, we'd like to salute all of you. Thank you very much. Members of council, the next item on the agenda is the contract for the supply and installation. I'm sorry. Yes, we'll move the report. I guess first of all, a motion to move this report. Moved by Councillor Ionone, seconded by Councillor Carriel. Any discussion or comments? Having seen none, all those in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the contract for the supply and installation of a new artificial turf sports field at the Kaler Park Home for Girls Soccer. And I'd like to have someone move the recommendation. Or does anyone want to speak to that? Councillor Thompson and Councillor Maves. Any comments or discussion? Having seen none, all those in favour? Motion is carried. Now, we do have another deputation, and this evening we do have members of the Niagara United Soccer Club, formerly known as the Niagara Falls Girls Soccer Club, who will be presenting a check to us. Now, the presenters, I would like to ask them to come forward, please. Donna Manteso as president, Dan Santine, Andrew Hallcraft, David Jovanovic, Christiana Romo, Alaya Aziz are both players, in addition to a number of Timbit League players who will be joining us as well. So we've got them here with us this evening. And I'll turn over the floor to Dan.
Yes.
Okay.
Your Worship, councillors, as you know, we've been developing the park over the last 5-6 years. It's been a community effort. Andrew has been there from the onslaught, so I'm going to let him talk and introduce the girls afterwards with a presentation of the checks. You want to go ahead, Andrew?
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, I want to thank you, all of you, for letting us be here again, once again, to talk about how we're developing our soccer field on Kayla Road, the Home for Girls Soccer. As you know, we've already put together, we've already presented you with almost $500,000 towards this project. And again, we're being a little bit adventurous, and we want to pursue this even further. First of all, I think we've introduced Dave on the end, Dave Jovanovic. We've got Don Montes, who's our president for the last couple of years, who's actually a very hard worker. You guys wouldn't believe the kind of work this lady puts towards this club. And I'm yelling at her all the time to delegate, and she does it a little bit. But tonight I'm being delegated. And of course we've got Dan Santon, and we've got the players I'll introduce you later. We've got the big check for you. The field development is a big part of developing players, and each year as we look towards how we make this club better and better, we are the largest non-for-profit sports organization in the whole Niagara region. And as we move ahead, we're trying to get creative and how can we do better for the girls in the city, and it's the members and you guys that have really made this happen, and we've really moved just amazingly further ahead. We're looking for your support tonight. We've done some really deep thinking, and we want to develop this all-weather turf, and that will only help the house league. We want to extend our leagues in the fall and the spring seasons. We develop our players even more, and like I said, we've got a couple of provincial representatives right here who are playing for the provincial select team tonight, this year, and again, I'm just looking for your support to do this. I
think you're pretty much
okay. What I want to do is here's another check. We've already given you over almost $500,000. It's going to be another $500,000 to develop this artificial turf just from us, and with support from you guys. I think it's $450,000 each, a little more than that. And this is our first installment to make this project move ahead further. So tonight I have Annie and Carling Ibe, who are the Timbit players here. We have Christina Rummel, and we have Alea and Haziz, who both represent the provincial soccer team this year. We will present to the City of Niagara Falls a check in the amount of $100,000 towards the first installment, going up there, to the artificial turf.
Once again, Andrew, if I may, on behalf of members of council, I'm just always amazed at the phenomenal work that you do and the fundraising that occurs with this league. And so, on behalf of the members of council, thank you very much for the generosity and the dedication and commitment that you have for that facility. It's going to be an outstanding facility, and we're very proud of what we have here. So thank you again on behalf of members of council for this great contribution and the good work you've done.
And it wouldn't happen without the work of the members of the club and the support of you guys. Denise and your staff have been fabulous.
Thank you very much.
They've worked with us the whole way, just helping figuring things out. And again, it's just great to be here. I mean, tonight I've sat here and watched. I think we're the third good story after the two that were ahead of us. And this is great that the city can really take advantage of that. I mean, we could sit here and bicker about things, but you guys are really good. You figure out the good stuff, too. You make sure you point that out, because I know you got your issues. No doubt about it. So go for it. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Clerk, could you introduce the next item on the agenda, please?
A public meeting is now being convened to consider a proposed amendment to the city's official plan and zoning bylaw to permit a major commercial development at Oakwood Drive south of McLeod Road. Notice was given by first-class mail in accordance with the Planning Act on Friday, April 25th, 2008, and by posting a sign on the property in question. Anyone who wants notice of the passage of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to participate in any site plan process, if applicable, or preserve their opportunity to appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board shall leave their name on the sign-in sheets outside the council chamber.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to call on the Director of Planning to explain the purpose and the reason for the proposed bylaw amendment. Mr. Hilovich.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, this application involves a proposed development by Oakwood Place Shopping Centres, proposed by Smart Centres. It's for a commercial shopping centre at the southwest corner of Oakwood and McLeod. This location map shows it more specifically. There are 2 parcels involved. Actually, 3 parcels are identified. 2 parcels are involved in the application. The parcel that's identified as parcel 3 is not subject to the rezoning. That will actually retain its existing tourist commercial zoning. Parcel 2 and parcel 1 will be part of the zoning for a shopping center, and they will also be subject to a redesignation from tourist commercial to minor or major commercial designation. In the area, we have McLeod Road to the north. At the corner of Oakwood, we have a McDonald's, as well as the Petro-Canada station immediately abutting this property. To the east is the Ontario Power Canal, as well as the residential community south of McLeod Road. To the west, we have the QEW, the Queen Elizabeth Way. To the west of that is Niagara Square, the Peninsula Motel, and a number of other commercial developments. To the northwest is the McBain Community Center, as well as the lands that are controlled by Villeboy, a commercial developer. The background behind this report is that the application is for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for the total of the property. Parcel 1, the southerly parcel, is 5.5 hectares. Parcel 2 is 8.5 hectares. Parcel 3, I mentioned, is to retain its existing first commercial designation and zone, and will be part of a future severance application. The applicant's proposing a 40,000 square meter or 430,000 square foot shopping center. That would consist of a 13,500 to 20,500 square meter new prototype Walmart department store. There would, in addition, be a home improvement center having a proposed area between 4,800 square feet and 14,000 square meters rather, and up to 7,000 square meters or 75,000 square feet of retail stores, personal service shops, automotive services, restaurants. As well, they're looking for accommodations and entertainment facilities on the property. The site plan that has been submitted by the applicant is represented on this slide in front of you. The most northerly building shown in red represents the department store, the Walmart store, the future location. As well, there are a number of parcels on. It's labeled Site 1 here, but we're labeling it Parcel 2. A number of smaller buildings which represent the other commercial retail outlets, as well as a number of stores. The parcel number 1 on the south includes a number of smaller stores, and then the large red box represents the home improvement center. I wanted to point out a couple of things to council because they will come up tonight at council. There's a 14-meter reserve along the west side of the property. This is a reserve that's required by the Ministry of Transportation because of the proximity to the highway and the highway right-of-way. As well, the Ministry of Transportation controls this wedge of land between Oakwood Drive and the Smart Center's proposal. As well, there's a letter in from Mr. Sorokalit regarding Parcel 1, which is the parcel to the north. There's a driveway that's supposed to come in to service this parcel will be severed in the future. It's currently owned by Smart Centers as part of this overall development. As well, this red area here represents the loading bays, and there's a small box behind that representing the garbage compactors, and those are mentioned in the report. The principal entrance coming into the development will be from the south of Parcel 1, the north of Parcel 2, or sorry, north side of Parcel 1, south side of Parcel 2. There's an alternate entrance into the parcel from the west side of Oakwood Avenue, or Oakwood Drive, rather. The planning department looked at a number of matters with respect to this application. The lands are already zoned or designated commercial. They're designated tourist commercial in our official plan. Our official plan establishes a hierarchy of commercial uses, and the intention is to stem the flow of dollars out of the city and keep our residents shopping locally. The Niagara Square district is more than Niagara Square. It's actually the whole of the major commercial area to the west of the Queen Elizabeth Way, and it's to be promoted as a regional shopping district. That is the highest order of shopping that we would have in our city. The applicant has requested that this property, the subject lands that we've seen, be redesignated as major commercial, and they would become part of this Niagara Square retail district. The proposal was reviewed, and we found that it will help strengthen the district and its role as a regional shopping destination. We found that the department store will assist in providing additional shopping opportunities to this district and to the city in general. There are a number of other stores and services proposed for the property, which will bring a full range of retail and commercial outlets. We had a requirement that a market study be submitted. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but it certainly demonstrated that this development helped recapture dollars flowing out of the city. There are a number of contemplated proposed developments that are permitted under the current tourist commercial use. That is, there are uses, and I'll speak to that during the zoning section, that are currently allowed, such as food stores, drug stores, clothing stores, already permitted on this site, and so many of those uses would be recognized at a different scale than the one that we have here. As well, we found the site is accessible to the Queen Elizabeth Way, so it makes a good site for serving the entire community, and the development, the scale of the buildings, the form of the buildings are compatible with the adjacent commercial and industrial development. As well, looking at the official plan, there's a requirement that I mentioned that they do a market study, or that the developer submit a market study. They had one prepared by Malone Gibbon Parsons to substantiate their floor area that they were proposing. The city contracted the services of Joseph Urban Consultants to examine that submission to ensure that the findings were accurate and a true reflection of the city's needs. The findings of Joseph Urban Consultants was that the relocation of the Walmart store to this node will actually serve as an additional anchor for the regional shopping center. They did project that there would be a short-term impact on other department store sales. That is actually the Zellers, the only other department store we have in town. There would be an impact, but that should be covered by 2014. In fact, the consultant found that once Walmart relocates, the Zeller store should actually do much better because it would be the only department store left in that quadrant. The JUC also found that grocery facilities are needed in the southwest part of the city, and that the proposed grocery facilities, along with the other planned supermarkets in the city, could be accommodated without the closure of any other supermarkets. It's recommended that the minimum department store size be 13,500 square meters. That's 145,000 square feet, in order to ensure that it actually does serve as an anchor. So we do want a large store there, which will have the drawing power that will be necessary to create the hierarchy that the official plan contemplates. We'll also control the size of the grocery store and recommend that that be restricted to being located within the department store. The consultant for the city also examined the effects of a home improvement store and found that while there was support for the 14,000 square meter home improvement store, that's 150,000 square feet, that he felt that there was a stronger market for a smaller store of 10,200 square feet, approximately 110,000 square feet. As well, the official plan contemplates, or the amendment contemplates some accessory uses. Again, the 7,000 square meters or 75,000 square feet of retail stores could be supported for this. The consultant again recognized that this could be accommodated without adversely affecting the inventory, and in fact, in setting aside square footage for this, took into account and allocated a square footage of specialty shopping for the downtown area as well. The home improvement store, the applicant's requesting that there be a phase 2, and that is if the home improvement store does not materialize, they would like the ability to come back and reallocate that square footage to be medium-sized big box stores. The minimum size of each of those stores would be 15,000 square feet, and that would occur after 2011 should the home improvement center not develop by then. This phasing will allow then the other nodes and retail space to have a chance to redevelop and re-merchandise. This is particularly important that the Walmart store becomes vacant to give it a chance to also catch up with the market. The official plan designates Oakwood Drive as a collector road. It allocates a 23-meter road right-of-way. Because of the scale of this development, it was projected that it would be much more traffic generated, and so that the wider road right-of-way would be needed. The traffic consultants for the proponent really identified a 5-lane profile. Typically, that would require a right-of-way of up to 34 meters. The applicant had concerns about this right-of-way because of the impact on their development. So city staff re-examined that and are willing to reduce the right-of-way width from 34 meters at its widest down to 28.5 meters and down to 25.1 meters or 82 feet at the northern edge of parcel 2. There would be no requirement for a road widening past the main entrance that I mentioned onto Oakwood Avenue from the north of parcel 1 and south of parcel 2, because that portion of the road will remain a 2-lane profile. The developer will be required to enter into development agreements with the city regarding contributions toward the reconstruction of Oakwood Drive. The region is initiating or has initiated a environmental assessment for McLeod Road and its upgrading, and there will be cost-sharing agreements required with the region as well. The site design for the project has been submitted and is acceptable subject to certain modifications. Originally, the applicant had designed the project with the department store facing towards the QEW, and that is backing onto Oakwood so that its loading areas and service areas faced Oakwood. We felt that presented an unattractive face to the street and had a significant impact on the streetscape. The applicant then reoriented the building to face south with the loading and service areas to the north. I pointed that out a minute ago. And we felt this has 2 advantages. One, that it improves the face on the public realm, that is Oakwood Drive, and it reduces the building's massing along Oakwood Drive. And again, that's important relative to some of the zoning that we'll mention in a minute. So we're recommending that this reorientation of the building be confirmed by requiring that loading and service areas be located away from the street frontage. The applicant has requested our shopping center commercial zone. There's a typical standard of 18 meters for buildings in a shopping center commercial zone. They've requested a reduction down to 6 meters. We're satisfied that the 6 meters would be fine for the smaller satellite buildings on the property because of their low height and their small massing. So we don't believe that would have an impact on the streetscape. As well, within that 6-meter setback, they could accommodate outdoor cafes and patio areas associated with many of today's restaurants. But we are recommending that the reduction of the side yard along Oakwood not be less than 12 meters, and therefore the Walmart would be set back 12 meters. We're supporting that because, as I mentioned, the building has been turned, and so the massing along Oakwood Drive is substantially less. The site design for the property would also require certain zoning configurations, and that is that we're looking to achieve a 15% landscape requirement on the site. This would include 6-meter landscape strips along all the street frontages, and would include the 14-meter setback requirement of the MTO as being part of their landscaped area. We feel that these enhancements would help mitigate the impacts of the large building and the large parking areas that are associated with this development. Because of the reduction in the road width, it's also essential to have those landscape strips on the site. Because we've had to reduce the road allowance width, the sidewalk will actually be abutting the property line. So if we didn't have landscape strips on the development, snow would be pushed onto the city sidewalks. There would be no separation between parking lot and the public realm, so we think it is important to have that. Transit has also requested that there be a bus lay-by on the site to serve the clients, and this will affect the current number of parking spaces and the layout. The zoning on the property is currently zoned tourist commercial. I'm sorry this is going on, but it's actually a really critical development for this city, and really will have a substantial impact on the economic growth of our city. The applicant is requesting that the zone be changed from tourist commercial to shopping center zone. But I would point out that the tourist commercial zone on the site currently allows for food stores, clothing stores, souvenir stores, liquor stores, drug stores, bakeries. The only thing is that they won't let them all be in one building, such as a department store. So that's part of the purpose of this application, is to recognize that we could consolidate those into one large floor area. I've outlined a number of the zoning provisions that the applicant has requested. We would also be providing in the bylaw that there would be site-specific provisions tailored to this development. The applicant has also requested that other uses be included, such as a car rental establishment, a hotel, a motel, and a place of worship. These are already permitted under the tourist commercial zone. We don't see any problem with those continuing as appropriate ancillary uses on the site. The applicant has identified that there would be a 40,000 square foot maximum floor area for the department store. I'm sorry, that would be for the whole shopping center. The department store would be not less than 13,500 square meters. That's 145,000 square feet, and a maximum of 20,500 square meters, or that figure is not exactly right, 226,000 square feet. The home improvement center will have a range of between 4,800 square meters and 14,000 square meters. So this would be a store between the range of 51,000 square feet and 150,000 square feet. So I've mentioned our consultant found that there was support for stores of that size. I mentioned that there are a number of specific setbacks and standards that would be introduced into this zoning. That includes the setback from Oakwood Drive, 6 meters for the small buildings, 12 meters for the large buildings. As well, we're looking at a 2-meter setback from the east side next to the Ontario Power Generation canal lands. Again, because those lands will not be developed, we don't have concerns with respect to that, and provided the Ontario Power doesn't have an objection, that would go ahead. The minimum landscaping required for this site will be 15,000, or 15% rather. 15,000% would be a little high. The required parking ratio standard is 1 to 18 square meters. The applicant has requested one space per 21 square meters. However, in reviewing this, our staff found that we could support a parking space of one parking space per 23 square meters although the numbers get bigger, is actually a lesser requirement, and we believe that this will help facilitate having on-site transit facilities and accommodating the landscaping on site. As well, the applicant has asked for a lot coverage increase to 35%. We are supporting this again. We're equating that back to the 15% landscaping standard. As well, the applicant has asked for some open storage to allow home improvement products and sporting goods to be within a screened enclosure. We already permit garden supplies to be in this type of facility, so it's only logical that we provide for other seasonal type goods that would be allowed to be displayed. Those design elements will be considered during part of the site plan stage. Well, I don't know what happened to that, but in any event, we found that the application can be supported, and the clerk's going to bring that back up to me. I told people it was anyway, technologically challenged. So anyway, we did find that the department store will add to the node and strengthen the node within our official plan hierarchy. As well, the proposal is suitable from a site design and a compatibility with adjacent uses. From a market standpoint, it can also be supported. And we've made some recommendations regarding the road network, and that infrastructure change is also necessary to support the development. We've mentioned the landscaping elements, which would be necessary to complete the acceptable design features. The zoning will regulate the development. So therefore, we are recommending the proposal. I did again. And in any event, that we're recommending council approve the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, and that the applicant enter into the necessary development agreements with the city and the region. That concludes the highlights of this application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurlwich. And members of the public are advised that failure to make an oral or written submission at this public meeting will result in the Ontario Municipal Board dismissing any referral it receives. Failure to sign the sign-in sheets will result in the staff rejecting an appeal as per Section 17, subsection 24 of the Planning Act. At this time, Council will hear from anyone other than the applicant who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaw amendment. And before I get into that, I'd like to ask Councillor Ioannoni, you have a comment to make?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More a question. We have an objection from the Consulate Development Group in regards to the configuration of the Walmart, how it's going to sit.
Orientation, yes.
The orientation. My understanding from the developer is he had initially requested that it be situated facing the highway, which, having just traveled across New York State, when you pass a center like that, they are generally facing the highway. And as the developer explained to us, the Consulate Group isn't that happy with the fact that the back side of the Walmart is going to be facing the new McDonald's and the Petro-Canada. And I know the developer had talked to the staff about that too, and I don't quite understand, is the mass not the same if you're this way as opposed to this way? And I mean, I don't understand us telling Walmart how Walmart can be more, situated to be more successful. They know the plan, it works. And as for somebody who lives in the middle of the city, walking distance from Walmart, I'm not really happy to see it leave my neighborhood, but I'm thrilled to see this come there. The jobs in this economic time that it's going to build, bring forward, and the fact that parents can shop for their kids and groceries in the same store, it's ingenious. But that question in regards to configuration, I'd like staff to answer.
Mr. Hurlwich, could you address that matter, please?
Thank you, Worship. For the councillor, the massing is that this is a much longer wall along the north side than this east-facing wall. So if you have a long wall along here, someone who's walking along this side of the building to then come around to the front would then be over here. So someone would be walking all the way along here in order to get to the front. So it's a much more exposure and therefore much bigger frontage next to there. This is going to have a 40,000 square foot grocery store component. If any of you have ever walked behind Zayre's or any of the other large stores, you know there are trash compactors. There's always fruit and vegetables and all sorts of things that get put in there, leachate that comes out of those sites, and that's what's going to face Oakwood. If the councillor is satisfied that she could rather have loading facilities and garbage next to the street, then I accept her position.
Okay. Councillor Ioannoni?
No sarcasm there. I shop. It's a hobby. if I'm going to shop at Walmart, I'm not going to park back there and walk along the front of the building. I'm going to park where it's more amenable for me to get to all the stores. So that argument doesn't fly with me. And quite frankly, you can put a fence back there. You can do anything you want back there. But why are we making it more difficult for this development to come before us? Not to mention affecting new business in regards to the Petro-Canada and the McDonald's that are there. If it configured the other way, would staff have given a positive report?
Mr. Hurlovich?
Your Worship, staff has been working with this developer for 18 months. It's been a long process, and I believe that we've come in with a positive recommendation. I mentioned to this council that we saw this as being a positive economic development for the city, and so certainly we would have been supportive. But we're talking about site plan matters. We also have been trying to develop this city to meet its world-class reputation that it claims to have. And that's what we believe in. We believe that staff has given a professional recommendation and council is the decision-making body.
Okay, thank you.
I still have the floor?
Yes, you do.
And again, no sarcasm there. So if Walmart, if they were to come back to council and say, because I just heard it, that they would have a positive staff report, whether it was flipped the other way or not, and I hope the developers are keeping track of that. Should they come back and amend to flip that, staff, because it's such a positive development, would be supportive of that? I just wanted a yes or no. I didn't need to be reprimanded.
Excuse me. Mr. Hurlovich, please. Would you like to address that?
I have nothing further to add. I think the Alderman's made her point.
Okay. Councillor Carrio?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering if anyone knew the traffic count on McLeod Road and the traffic count on Oakwood. Any of the staff?
Mr. Hurlovich or Mr. Dren, would you have those figures at all?
I don't have.
For the mayor, I don't have those figures.
I have a ballpark idea on what the traffic count on McLeod Road would be?
Again, what's happening right now is the region's undertaking the environmental assessment of that entire road. And they're looking at the future growth and future lane configuration. So I don't have that. No.
Oakwood?
Yeah.
How about just, could you give me the comparison between the traffic on Oakwood and the traffic on McLeod? That's where I'm going.
Yeah. And Councillor Carrio, maybe the developer would have those figures. I think they do, but you want to...
I'm assuming that the traffic count on McLeod is 1,000 times more than the traffic count on Oakwood. The reasons that the staff was giving for orienting the building, I thought, was for who would be exposed to the rear of the building. I was just going to raise a similar question to Councillor Anoni, that the traffic count on McLeod, the people driving down McLeod, probably 3, 4, 5, I don't know, 20,000 cars a day, maybe 500 cars a day on Oakwood. I think that we're exposing the rear of the building to a lot more people than we would be if we oriented back the other way. I thought maybe there would have been a better reason for changing it than that, because the only thing on Oakwood at that stage is, as I went by there today, are some trees and then the canal. So, and I'm assuming that most people are going to drive to Walmart, not walk to Walmart. Because I know when my family goes to Walmart, there's usually too much to carry. They can't possibly walk home with it. So they'd have to drive. So I just have the same questions, and I'd like to hear from the developer. The other thing is that the last remnant, the Sorocolets property, I don't know what they plan to do with it, but we're orienting the back of the building to a possible future development rather than to the hydro canal and the trees that are adjacent to the canal. So I think we're going to have some more discussion on this, and I don't know why that has to be etched in stone in the bylaw, why we're not talking about that at site plan like normally we would be, but anyway.
Councillor, we do have some correspondence from the proponent, or from the proponent to the north, and he's present as well, so we may hear from him. So at this time, I'm going to ask anyone other than the applicant who wishes to make comment to come forward, please. Please adhere to the 10-minute rule, and you'd be kind enough to identify yourself and your location, your address, please.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Joel Farber. I'm a solicitor. I've sent correspondence to council this morning to the clerk, and I would ask council to receive that correspondence in connection with this public meeting.
Yes.
My client is RRVP Niagara Square, Inc., which is a long-winded way of saying Niagara Square Shopping Center. I'm asking that council defer approval of this application at this moment in time. as council is aware and as staff is aware, our client has been in the process of redeveloping Niagara Square for the last 3 years or so, following the closure of its 2 anchor tenants, Zellers and the Bay. The redevelopment of the Niagara Square was planned in accordance with OPA 60, which was adopted and approved in May of 2005, already 3 years ago. And the fact of the matter is that all of the improvements and enhancements that are contemplated by OPA 60 to Niagara Square are caught in a quagmire, a bureaucratic quagmire involving the city, the region, and the Ministry of Transportation. And none of those development prospects have gone ahead. As staff knows, Mr. Herlovich knows, we have been trying to develop Canadian Tire on the vacant site for quite some time. It's effectively site plan approved. It's been zoned for many months, probably over a year now. It's site plan approved. We are ready to build it. Canadian Tire is ready to build it, and we can't get it done for whatever reason. It's stuck in limbo while the city, the region, and the Ministry of Transportation basically try to stick each other with the costs of the McLeod Road improvements. And it's got very little, if nothing, to do whatsoever with Niagara Square. Niagara Square Shopping Center, as you know, is designated in your official plan as a full regional commercial shopping center capable of supporting over 500,000 square feet of space. It's now at about 380, of which a significant portion of that is vacant. We've been involved, obviously, in these discussions trying to advance it, but we can get nowhere, and we are now faced effectively with the prospect of having to possibly litigate with the Ministry of Transportation so that we can overcome these problems. But the fact of the matter is that at some point in time, existing zone developments have to be permitted to proceed before the city and the region can possibly consider additional incremental developments, which then are going to bring with them a whole host of problems and planning problems and financial issues that can't and shouldn't be visited on the Niagara Square. I would say, we had our foot in the door first, but that's a little too colloquial given the fact that this is a fundamental part of the City of Niagara Falls commercial space. It is a unique and important facility for Niagara Square, and RioCan has to be recognized for the fact that it's been able to re-tenant those anchor spaces, but the job is not done, and it can't be done right now because we are unable to secure permits. My request to council, again, is to defer consideration of this application or any other application that's going to impact on McLeod Road. We do not know, and we cannot foresee what's going to come down the road that will put the whole question of environmental assessment issues, transportation improvements, and other infrastructure matters which will then adversely affect investments that have already been made in Niagara Square, proposed and contemplated. I just want to make one more final point on the bylaw, if I might, before council, which is that if council does see fit to enact the bylaw, either tonight or at some point in the future, given my submissions to you, I'd ask that there be minimum floor sizes or minimum sizes for the phase 1 of the development. I find it curious that those are somehow supported for phase 2 but not supported for phase 1. The fact of the matter is Niagara Square has substantial vacancies. I invite any of the members of council to visit that facility and look at the fact that it is still a struggling facility given what's going on there, and that a 15,000 square foot minimum floor size, which staff has seen fit to recommend for phase 2, be implemented for phase 1. That would be very beneficial to Niagara Square and protect its ability to market its space to smaller type users that are the key, the core component of the Niagara Square facility. Those would be my submissions to you, members of council, your worship, subject to any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Farber. Are there any questions by members of council? Mr. Farber? Yes, Councillor Ioannoni.
He's not very happy about the bureaucratic quagmire. So could you have someone from staff explain that to us? Are we holding up any development? Because I'd hate to see that.
No, we're actually working with Niagara Square, as you know, and the other proponents in the area, but possibly Mr. Holman will be able to address this matter. Mr. Holman, could you give us some insight, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been running into some difficulty here. We recognize that the McLeod Road corridor needs to have some physical improvements to it, and we've run into some complications because of the split in jurisdiction. The city is responsible for that section of McLeod Road between Montrose and Pin Oak. The Ministry of Transportation is responsible between the ramps, and the region is responsible for the eastern half of McLeod Road between Oakwood Drive and all the way down to Portage Road. The Ministry of Transportation requires a building and land use permit, and what they've said to us is that it'll be up to the city to determine how their share of the improvements are to be calculated. We played around with a number of different scenarios because we recognize it's not just these projects that are in this particular corridor that are contributing to the needed improvements on McLeod Road. It's also developments out in Garner Estates, Warren Woods, Convention Center, what's going on in Chippewa. There's a number of projects that contribute to the background traffic. It's a project that is ripe for a development charge type of charge. The difficulty we have is neither the region or the city has these improvements for McLeod Road in our current DC calculation. And we've been told that we cannot include improvements in our DC calculation for infrastructure that we don't own. So we have this dilemma. We need to get about $4.5 million from the Ministry of Transportation, and they're saying that they're not paying. We have to find some way to collect that money and redistribute that cost or amongst the benefiting group. The fact of the matter is we don't have the financial mechanism, to collect these funds currently. We need to go through a development charge exercise. We've encouraged the development community to sit down together and work out a cost-sharing plan. So far, the numbers that we've developed have not been acceptable to not just the large players like Canadian Tire and Smart Centers, but also to the smaller players, the other applications that we have in this area, like Tim Hortons, Hamburg Honda, and some of the other projects. So we're stuck in this dilemma where the Ministry of Transportation is asking us to do something that we don't have jurisdiction to deal with. The region is going through a municipal class EA, as mentioned here. They'll be finished that exercise. It's going through a public process. It could take as long as a year or two. And so we really don't know exactly what the full impact is going to be. We've got independent traffic impact studies from each developer, and they don't seem to jive because everyone's assuming that the responsibility for the volume of traffic generated from their project should be allocated to somebody else. So we're chasing our tail, and you might call it a quagmire, but the fact is we don't have the answers and we don't have the mechanism to resolve this issue. The way that it could be resolved is if the development community got together and agreed to some solution, but at this stage they have not accepted that responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If the costs were not, the $4.5 million, I think you said, costs were not redistributed to the players, would it be redistributed to the residents?
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you're complaining about bureaucratic quagmire, I'm going to tell you, they would have to listen to this council in 4 years if we were putting those costs on the residents and not on the developers. So I'd have to stand by our staff here and say we don't want the residents to bear those costs. It's going to be up to the players and the ministry, because that's not a cost we can send back to our residents. So, Mr. Holman, if you didn't do it this way, would the cost be borne by the residents?
Mr. Holman, if you
I'm sorry, Mr. Holman.
Mr. Holman?
Did I say Julovic? I apologize.
Well, the total project cost is $11.2 million. If the region assumes responsibility for their share, which is largely about half, the city has a fairly small portion, about $1.5 million. The remaining $4.5 million, it has to be picked up. If it doesn't come from the Ministry of Transportation, it'll have to be borne by some other source, and potentially it could be taxpayers.
Well, Mr. Mayor, regionally it's picked up by the residents because that's where the taxes come from anyway.
There's an answer to that,
yes,
though.
but I'm really glad to see that our staff is being diligent on that. When you read this letter, it seems like we're trying to hold up development, and I'd hate to see it appear that that's what we're doing when we're really trying to protect the residents.
I can assure you, members of council, that we've been working on this dilemma over the last year or so. And Councillor Peter Angelo, you might want to make some comments.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. More a question, actually. I guess through yourself to Mr. Holman. Jeff, if we don't receive payment, I guess, before next year, would those costs then for reconstruction go into our development charges bylaw set to come out in 09?
Mr. Holman?
For those components of the infrastructure that we own, yes, which is a relatively small part of this project.
So then for, I guess, the private business owners, there will be a formula, and they will have to pay into the total cost before they're allowed to go ahead with their development?
Yes.
And is that what's holding up, I guess, the development of Canadian Tire? Right?
Sure. And Councillor Peter Angelo, we've been working with the proponents last year, I guess, and in fact, as recently as November, we had a meeting with all the players. We had the MTO there. We had representation from a member of Parliament, provincial Parliament, and we thought we were coming to some terms with regard to having the proponents pick up the costs. And as you heard Mr. Holman say, it's about $11 million. We also heard that there might be a tri-party agreement with respect to the municipality, City of Niagara Falls, the region, and also the MTO. After that meeting, the MTO decided they would only deal with upper tier, which meant that there was only going to be a bi-party agreement with the region and the MTO. And it's a very complex issue because they're the ones holding the development permit to allow the construction of these projects. And if I'm correct, I believe that they'll all be impacted the same way. So we're looking for $11 million, of which so far about only $600,000 or $700,000 has been acknowledged as work that has to be done to the ramps and the intersection that the MTO will contribute to. We've checked other areas of the municipalities to find out if, in fact, those new overpasses that you see constructed along the Queen E were paid by the MTO and other municipalities such as Oakville and Burlington, those areas. And the case has always been that the developers paid for the cost of those overpasses, not the taxpayers. And so we do have an issue. Mr. Farber is correct. However, we do have to qualify. We're not putting the burden of the onus on the residents of the City of Niagara Falls. It's going to be placed upon the developers. And when we discuss this with the region is doing their work with the environmental assessment, and the EA will indicate the need for other improvements to that whole area. And some may say that's premature, but we're actually working towards getting this development achieved. And what you see Mr. Farber saying, you'll also hear, I'm sure, from this proponent, because they'll all have to contribute. And Councillor Ionone was correct in the fact that we won't, if we want to issue a permit conditionally on us absorbing all the costs, we can do so, but obviously we're not going to have the taxpayers of the City of Niagara Falls pay for that as well. So, Councillor, you might want to make a comment again.
Yeah, just one final comment then, Your Worship, and I guess to yourself and Mr. Holman again. If we reach an agreement with Mr. Farber and representatives of other developers as well that the amount of money that they're going to contribute to the project is acceptable, then we will allow the development to go forward.
The MTO will allow it to go forward, I guess. Is that correct, Mr. Holman?
That's correct. Through the mayor. We've been working on that. In fact, we've tried a cost-sharing formula that hasn't been successful.
And the MTO has the control because of their jurisdiction in terms of the proximity to the Queen E. They have the right to issue development permits, and they're the ones that aren't at this point issuing any permits at this stage.
Well, I think then, Your Worship, Councillor Ionone is 100% correct when she says that, I guess to Mr. Farber, that all we're doing, Your Worship, is looking out for the best interests of the residents.
Sure. That's right. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. And this is kind of directed to Mr. Holman. This is basically the interchange then at McLeod Road, because we have done the sanitary service, the pumping station, the realignment, the upgrades, and the water and sewer upgrades on Montrose, Brown Road, Warren Creek, the high lift station, the Thundering Waters. Am I right? So our biggest costs are the interchange at McLeod Road.
Mr. Holman?
That's correct. We have completed a lot of work in this area in anticipation of development. Unfortunately, the interchange and the intersections are not within the city's jurisdiction.
That's right. But we as a city have done our cost and our expenses and our work. It is the MTO that has not completed their part of the deal. But when I go down this list, and it says here, serviced and in various stages of approval, we have Oakwood Drive, which is the Smart Stores. We have Honda dealers, Rona, Sobe, Canadian Tire, Niagara Square expansion, Warren Woods and Warren Woods Badger. We have Heartland Forest, Thundering Waters, Grand Niagara Resorts, Rudin, and more, Cuviello, and on, which comes to a return of about $2.1 billion in returns. The cost to go out is minimum compared to the returns of that whole development in the south end of our city. And going back here, the mayor made a statement. The south end of Niagara Falls is poised for an expansion of growth in 2008, and it says the city poises a growth explosion in the south end of our city. So I think we really have to try to get these people to move forward. This is a great opportunity for us. What a, when you see development, and I've been in construction in the bad times of my life, if nothing's happening, everybody's gloom and doom. When you see things happening, everybody gets excited and wants to work. And I'm sure if the smart stores come, more people will want to come to Niagara Square. It's an automatic. I want to be there. We're all excited about being where the action is. So I'm really supportive of this. I'd like to see us move forward. And my gosh, I can't wait to get all these things in the south end of the city. I'm tired of the railway tracks and going over to Walmart. Thank you.
Councillor Carrion.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question on the other request that this gentleman was making about the 15,000 square foot minimum. Has staff discussed this with the proponent?
Yes, we'll check and see. Mr. Hurlovich?
Your Worship, there are two things going on. It relates to the specialty shopping. If the home improvement center, what we were trying to achieve and what Smart Centers was trying to achieve is two anchors on the property. So you can appreciate the Walmart would be the anchor on the north property, and the home improvement center would be the anchor on the south property. The 15,000 square foot limit would be if the home improvement store didn't go ahead. That could develop as smaller stores. Certainly we picked a size that relates to what is developing in the market now. So we felt that 3 or 4 15,000 square foot stores would have an anchor type function. So if the home improvement center didn't go ahead, we would have 3 or 4 15,000 square foot stores that would serve as an anchor and draw people to that. So it wasn't for all of the specialty shopping. The other specialty shopping is actually in those smaller buildings that you see on the site. So it's actually two purposes. I don't know if that helps or not.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that the gentleman is asking, though, that there be nothing smaller than 15,000 square feet. My question was, have you talked to the proponent to find out whether or not he could live with a 15,000 square foot minimum?
Mr. Hurlovich?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
You haven't?
Okay.
Then my question to the gentleman at the podium would be, if we get into that discussion this evening and they happen to agree, then are you in support of the project, or would you not support the project?
I have through you to the mayor. I have to stand by my position, and it's been enunciated here, I think, and expressed by Councillor Fisher, that that Niagara Square can be extrapolated from the mess. That's what Mr. Holman said, and that is the answer to Councillor Iannone's question, that Niagara Square can proceed. All it will take is a deal with the City of Niagara Falls, which our client has put on the table in countless times, in very reasonable positions. It's tried to overcome this, and what it's been faced with is being in a position that it's all of a sudden its own development becomes subject to the vagrancies and desires of the third parties that really shouldn't affect what has been already planned and zoned for Niagara Square. So I can't support the project going ahead until I find a resolution for Niagara Square. It's unreasonable that it's been designated in 2005, and I'm still faced with, as Mr. Holman said, possibly 2 years before even the EA is complete. Never mind that the funding's actually found.
Mr. Farber, I think our solicitor would like to address that matter as well. Mr. Beeman?
Mr. Mayor, the Ministry of Transportation has made development in this area conditional upon there being an agreement between the Ministry of Transportation and the regional municipality of Niagara. The city has no control whatever as to whether that agreement is signed or not. The MTO, Schedule B of that agreement is the amount that the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario intends to contribute to this project. And Schedule B is one glorious blank. They do not intend to contribute a dime. And that's where the $4.5 million hole is that Mr. Holman refers to. We have actually, and Mr. Farber was in the telephone conference when the chief building official of this city was quite prepared to issue a conditional building permit to Canadian Tire to proceed with this project. The condition on the permit was that occupation would not take place until the Ministry of Transportation for Ontario had issued its permit in connection with the project. That would squarely put the contest between, as we, the city, feel it should be, between the developers and the MTO, who are really the ringleader of this circus. So I think the city has done everything it can to ensure that the Canadian Tire project can go ahead. I mean, the one thing that we hold, the one card that we hold, the building permit, we're quite prepared to give. However, applicable law requires that there be compliance with the MTO's requirements before this building is occupied. The city has done what it can do with respect to the Canadian Tire project.
Thank you. And Mr. Farber, I think we certainly empathize with your concern. We're dealing with it as we speak. We've had discussions with the region as well, and we're hoping to come to some resolution. These proponents will have the same challenge that your client has as well, so we're working at trying to solve the problem. And as you understand, our city solicitor, I think you understand the MTO's position well, so we're hoping to overcome this problem and see if we can get contributions that are acceptable to all the proponents in the area. So, Councillor Maves?
You answered my question, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask the same thing if the MTO holdup would affect everybody, all commercial aspects in the area, and it's going to affect them all?
That's right.
Putting this one?
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Farber. Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else other than the applicant who wishes to speak to this proposed bylaw amendment? Please come forward.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is John Sorokalit. I'm the principal of Consulate Ventures. We were the former owners of the property that is the subject of this application, parcels 1, 2, and 3. We have sold parcels 1 and 2 to Smart Centers, and we've retained an interest in parcel 3, subject to a future severance application. And I thank Councillor Iannone and Councillor Carrio for their comments earlier, recognizing that if the Walmart building, which is the largest building on site, as I understand it, is oriented to back onto the property in which we retain an interest, as well as backing onto the Petro-Canada and the McDonald's store, it really detracts from the attractiveness and the marketability of that site for any type of development. Given that it's, you'll have your trash compactors and truck deliveries basically adjacent to any type of development. So I appreciate the recognition of that, what I would consider a major deficiency in the site plan. I know the site plan approval is not here today, but I just wanted to put it on the record, and I did send a letter earlier today voicing our concern about that particular orientation of the building, and would appreciate reconsideration and reconfiguration of that plan sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Sorokalit? No? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else other than the applicant again who wishes to speak to this matter? I'm sorry. Councillor Wing?
Yeah, just regarding the reorientation of the building, Councillor Iannone referred to the buildings in New York State being oriented the way the developer is asking for, but there's a difference between us and the communities in New York State in that our community is claiming to be world class and striving to be that way. And I really have to agree with Mr. Hurlovich. It's not just a matter of it's only hydroland on that side. There's Oakwood Drive. That's our property. That's public land, and I don't think I want to see loading facilities and garbage bins leaking leachate right by our public roadway. And I'm quite sure there will be people walking. And I see people walking over the overpass on McLeod Road going to and from Niagara Square. There will be people walking in. The only way to consider that is if there's going to be a pedestrian pathway on the north side of the property. But even then, I would want to see an awful lot of landscaping screening Oakwood Drive from the rear of that facility if it was to be reoriented. And in regards to the previous speakers' comments, I think it's very important that we implement minimum floor sizes for Phase 1 as well as Phase 2. Niagara Square has been a hub in this community for over 30 years. You think about all the March break activities that go on there, the free exhibition space they give to Boy Scouts, heritage groups, the charities at Christmas who raise money by doing gift wrapping. We can't ignore what Niagara Square has provided to this community and how it's helped the various volunteer organizations. And I think it's very important we protect their efforts to revitalize there.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else other than the applicant who wishes to speak? Please come forward. Welcome, sir. Your name?
Thank you. James Amadio.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Celsi and councilors, city staff, and ladies and gentlemen. My name's Jim Amadio, and our family represents Jellystone Niagara Camp Resort, also on Oakwood Drive. And I'm just here today to, I just wanted to say I'm not objecting to this proposal. I am a little bit concerned about the traffic disruption in the area, especially during the summer months, which would affect our RV resort. There are many of our customers are driving larger vehicles, 40 feet in length, towing vehicles as well. And we're a little bit concerned about the disruption, especially during the summer months, if we could be consulted or at least informed as to what might be happening with traffic flow during that time.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see if we can answer that for you. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else other than the applicant who wishes to speak? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Luciano Butera. Good evening, Your Worship, members of the council. I'd like to say that I applaud the city's efforts in the development. I'd like to thank the city. I'd like to thank RioCan and the proponents for what they've done. I think that the project is much overdue in the city of Niagara Falls. I think it's something that us having our family interests on that street, we run several car dealerships in the area. I think it's a development that would increase traffic to our area. I think it's good for Niagara Square. I think it's good for the surrounding business. I think it's good for the surrounding developments. And I think it's something that will service the housing development quite nicely. So, I mean, from our perspective, we thank the city for its consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else other than the applicant who wishes to speak to this matter? Once again, is there anyone other than the applicant who wishes to speak? Having seen none, then the council will now hear from the applicant or his representative. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. My name is Elaine Sui, and I'm here as a representative for Oakwood Place Shopping Center, better known as Smart Centers. Thank you, Alex, for your presentation. You've gone over a lot already, so we'll try to make this as brief as possible. Smart Centers, as you probably already know, is a large privately held company, Canadian company. It's formerly known as First Pro Shopping Centers, and right now we have over 160 new shopping centers within Canada, opening since 1996. Approximately 35 new centers are underway within Ontario at this moment. We are the original developers of the Adams Centre, where Walmart currently sits. I'm just going to do some introductions to our team. Over the last 2 years, as Alex said, we have been undergoing this process of this application that comes before you this evening. We, as the developers, are Smart Centers. Our architectural team is Petrop Architects. Our planning consultants are GSP Group. Our market consultants are Malone Gibbon Parsons, and our engineers on the site are Trafalgar Engineering. Our traffic consultants are iTrans Consulting, and our legal consultants are Woodbull. And now I'm going to hand over the presentation to Glenn Shields of GSP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Salsi, members of council. Mr. Hurlovich certainly gave you a very detailed review of the project, so I'm going to skip over some of these slides if you don't mind. I think you're all very familiar with it. The site location, of course, at the interchange. And our site plan, this is similar to the one Mr. Hurlovich had up. This is simply in color. But the larger store at the north part is a new Walmart superstore and a series of smaller buildings with smaller retail units and service units and restaurants and so on in and around Oakwood. And then at the south end, we're proposing to develop a home improvement store. There are a number of economic benefits we believe associated with the project, and I just want to highlight a couple of them. Certainly, and you'll hear later on when I give you an overview on the retail market study, and similar to what Mr. Hurlovich said, there certainly is an outflow of shopping dollars to other communities, and this project, we believe, in conjunction with a stronger Niagara Square district, will help to keep a lot of that retail spending in the community. It'll certainly create new jobs as well as the Walmart expands and the other retailers come to the community, and it represents a significant economic investment. The existing Adams Center store is about 105,000 square feet, and as many of you are aware, Walmart has a development program where they're creating a number of what they call supercenter stores in many communities. These are larger stores. They offer a redesigned interior with a much more spacious series of corridors and display areas. They have an expanded product line, but most importantly, they've got a full grocery section that's in the order of about 45,000 square feet. So for this particular marketplace, Walmart is proposing to develop a store of about 215,000 square feet, and that just cannot fit on the Adams Center site. So they have looked at a new location. And as well, these new stores include a number of environmentally friendly features or sustainable features that Walmart has introduced. And I won't go through these in detail, but Walmart has long-term goals to become a leader in sustainability and in their industry. And they have worked hard to decrease their energy consumption through a whole series of elements and features built into these new and the renovated stores. One of the key components of our submission, and one Mr. Hurlovich mentioned as well, was the retail market study that was submitted by MGP, prepared by MGP, and Mr. Lee Parsons is here as well, should you have any questions for him. The local commercial structure is certainly got a very strong tourist-oriented component, but comparatively the selection of stores and service oriented to local residents has not kept pace with the community growth. And as a result, as I mentioned earlier, there's a substantial amount of spending that's directed to stores and services outside. And again, I won't go through the chart, but it certainly indicates that in some categories, like specialty retail, there's a significant amount of spending that takes place outside of the community. So this project will help to recapture some of that spending. Obviously, you can't recapture it all. You know, people are very mobile, but if we can give people a better range of choices and selections, then we should be able to keep more of those shopping dollars in the community. The graphic on the right-hand side, I think, certainly depicts this particular node quite well. We are on an interchange location, the QEW and McLeod. It is an established retail area, and we do have commercial permissions on 3 of the corners of the intersection. So it's a great place to do this kind of retail development. Niagara Square, as you know, is going through transformation, and as Mr. Farber indicated, RioCan is now the owner, and they have done a great job in redemising the space, bringing in new tenants, and now they have some of Canada's stronger national retailers there, in addition to the Cineplex and the proposed Canadian Tire. So it's certainly an established retail shopping area as well. Sometimes the anchors do have to move, and this is an example not too far away at the Seaway Mall in Welland, where Walmart left the shopping center and something like Niagara Square. A series of mid-sized box retailers came in and took up that space. So we do know that the retail industry is dynamic, and with good developers and shopping center operators, those stores can be repositioned. So in summary, the Malone-Gibbon-Parsons study concluded that this proposal will help to strengthen that Niagara Square retail node. It'll bring a strong department store anchor to the area, and currently there is no department store anchor in this node. It's going to increase the service and selection available locally, and as I said, retain more local spending. The Adams Center is still a good location for retail. Home Depot is there, and they're a very strong anchor, and there are other retail tenants there, and that Walmart space can be reused for other purposes. The study was peer-reviewed as well by Henry Joseph, as Mr. Hurlovich indicated, and he concurred with the findings and conclusions as well. In terms of infrastructure, I'll briefly go through that. There is a water main on Oakwood, and we can extend the sanitary sewer, so we are going to have full services, and we'll be developing a box culvert through the middle of the site to accommodate our drainage and take it over to the canal. In terms of road improvements, again, we've heard some discussion on that, and there certainly are improvements that have to be made in the area. Oakwood Drive has to be improved, as Mr. Hurlovich indicated, and McLeod Road, a regional road, is subject to an EA study, and it will identify in greater detail the improvements that are necessary. There has been a lot of consultation, as Mr. Holman indicated. He's, I think, brought everybody up to date on the current situation. There has to be obviously some more analysis and some more discussion with all the parties, and hopefully we can resolve this issue so all of these great developments in the south end of the city can move ahead. The Oakwood Drive improvements are included as a series of elements. There'll be a double left turn lane at McLeod, so widening through the middle part of the site, and we'll also be doing traffic signals in the middle of the development where the north and south driveways do meet. From a planning perspective, again, I think it's important to emphasize that this is an established commercial area, and indeed there are commercial permissions already on this property in both the official plan and in the zoning bylaw. In addition to the tourist-related kind of uses permitted, there's also a range of retail uses and services that are permitted on the site, and in fact, a developer could come along and develop a shopping center on this site now. There's permissions for up to 75,000 square feet of smaller retail units, and there's no minimum size restriction on that. There is permission for a food store, drug store, and restaurants and those kinds of things. So what we're doing is basically taking those limits on the small stores, which is currently at 4,300 square feet, and the limits on total retail space, and altering those, as well as providing the permission for the Walmart store, the department store to take place. And that would be done under the auspices of the major commercial designation that would be applied to the site, and a rezoning of the site to planned shopping center commercial. The project, we believe, is consistent with provincial, regional, and city policies. Again, I won't go through those, but certainly Mr. Hurlovich's staff report has reviewed all of those as well, and we believe that and concur with his analysis in the report. This is a $52 million development as well, and it's going to add over $2 million a year in taxes to the city. So from a planning perspective, again, there are existing commercial permissions, and what we're doing is just altering the categories that will apply here. It will certainly serve to strengthen the area and create a stronger regional node, and one that's different from the downtown area and different from some of the other shopping centers in the community. Studies have been prepared, and we believe we've addressed all of the technical servicing elements here in the project. Staff recommendations, again, I won't go through those, but we've spent some time dealing with those and with Mr. Hurlovich and his staff, and I believe we've been able to resolve a lot of these details. There'll certainly be other details that we'll address at the site plan stage, but I believe we've got a good understanding, and as the bylaws drafted, we'll go through it in detail with Mr. Hurlovich and make sure we're all in accordance with the appropriate development regulations. So that concludes our presentation. Again, Walmart's proposing a new supercenter, and they need a larger site than what they have now to accommodate the expansion. The site does permit commercial activity, retail activity, and what we're seeking to do is amend those permissions and expand the Niagara Square retail district. The project is going to encourage more local spending and stem the outflow of shopping dollars. The proposal has been reviewed and peer-reviewed, and the concurrence was that it will not lead to closures or significant impacts on the other commercial nodes in the community. The road network will certainly need to be upgraded, and Smart Centers is certainly willing to participate in that and pay its fair share of the improvements that must be made to that local road network. And again, your staff are recommending it for approval, and we would certainly ask for your support as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Shields. We did have a request from Mr. Sorokalit with regard to the orientation, and are you satisfied with the orientation of the building?
We've certainly discussed the orientation with staff, and we started with a different orientation. We've come around to this orientation and concur with it. I understand his concern about compatibility. I'd also add that I don't think the back of the store will necessarily be the conditions won't be as unpleasant as perhaps Mr. Hurlovich has outlined, but obviously there has to be a back door to all these projects. But I think we can sit down, and I think we can work at some kind of strategy and work in design elements that will promote compatibility between the sites, and hope to create an arrangement that does work. Certainly, those are site plan details, but the intent now is to move forward with the direction that's shown, and the zoning bylaw is going to be crafted on that basis, so that if the store does shift, then we've got to go back and look at some of the suggestions for building setbacks as well, because they have been tailored to that particular arrangement.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have questions from Councillor Diodati and Councillor Carrion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Shields' question that I had asked Ms. Susie, or Sui rather, when we had met, regarding the road allowance for bike lanes. As you may or may not know, just directly to the east is a Millennium Trail that the city started a number of years ago. Has there been any discussion or any consideration for the idea of maybe just an idea rather than bike lanes that you contribute the equal amount of dollars to the west side of the canal Millennium Trail that we've had on the books for some while? I just wondered through your worship if we could have some discussion on that.
Mr. Shields?
Certainly, I'm not up to speed on those, but I'll ask one of the other members of the team to address it.
Councillor Diodati, we have not had those discussions internally as yet. Currently, our right-of-way consists of bike lanes. We're going forward with that until we hear from Municipal Works. That's the direction we'll be heading. But until we're requested to do so, that's when we'll consider it.
Okay. Then perhaps, Councillor, there might be some discussion that they would have in the interim. We could ask staff to look into that if you wish. Councillor?
Your Worship, then I don't know if this would be an appropriate time to make a motion, or do we wait for the...
Oh, yeah, if you just wait till we close the meeting, first of all, okay? We have some other questions.
Make that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Carrion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to ask the gentleman to describe the back of the building. I'm getting an awful picture painted about your back of your building, a leaching monster. So could you maybe explain what the back of the building would look like before I ask to have the orientation removed?
Sure. Unfortunately, I haven't got any pictures here. The back of any building, there has to be some loading docks there, and able to accommodate the transports that come in. As well, there are typically areas for cardboard compactors and areas for waste containers. So there's a variety of ways to do that, depending on what the situation is and what the adjacent uses and activities are. And we just haven't got to the point of doing that. Certainly, we try to, in most cases, provide those things indoors where possible, and certainly well screening. I think part of the situation with respect to odors is just how frequently the trash is removed at various times of the year.
Usually done at site plan?
Yes.
Usually done at site plan.
Yes.
My other question is, I guess, more of a comment. Along the line of the Niagara Square people, would you not become a partner in their problem if we approve your application?
Sure.
You become a partner in the road reconstruction, in the fixing of the traffic problem. I would have thought that Niagara Square would have embraced the project, thinking I've got an ally and a partner and more clout to help get their problem solved, than to say we'd just like to stand alone and get our Canadian Tire built. I think that if you people are on stream now, we've got twice as much motivation to push the MTO, our partners, to help solve your road problem, because we need the road problem solved before either one of you can develop.
And Councillor Carey, I think that's worth mentioning. We had in November a meeting with almost 20 different individuals around the table, and we rolled out the map as long as the boardroom table was in Committee Room 2, and to show the issues that exist. And I think we're all in this together, and we're working towards a resolution. So I think that's fair to say. So, thank you. Are there any other questions from those present or members of council with respect to the applicant's position? Having seen none, then the public meeting with respect to the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment is now concluded. And the pleasure of council.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor Fisher moves the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Maves. Any comments or discussion? Councillor Carriot?
Do we have to have the recommendation with the building orientated the way it is? Can we not have the recommendation put through and have the building orientation done at site plan?
Well, we have the recommendation in the application as it sits, and that's what's being moved. Yes, Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you. I'm with Councillor Carrier there. I'm hard-pressed to believe that the city of Niagara Falls will lose its world-class status because we flip a Walmart the other way. If that's the case, you got decades of council who have big things to answer to. Can they come back with an amendment? If we pass this, can they come back amending that to be flipped that way? We did hear staff say they'd get a positive recommendation doing so. Well, I'd hate to see us put it that way and affect the Sorokalik's property. And, I mean, for this dire leaching we have on that side, we're saying it's okay to leach into the businesses behind you and landlock that. I mean, this is asinine.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think Mr. Shields qualified that they did have a different orientation than they started, but they've obviously worked this out with staff. Mr. Hurlovich, would you be glad to make comment on that, please?
Staff will include it into the zoning bylaws, so if council would rather have it negotiated as part of the site plan, then there should probably be a friendly amendment to the motion on the floor.
Okay. Councillor Peter Angelo.
Your Worship, I guess I sort of agree with the orientation of the building and the fact that I would like to see it changed, and for that reason alone, I'd like to see it actually in the zoning bylaw. Because again, I've complained that at certain times we've passed the bylaw, and then the appeal period is now over with, and then we deal with issues of site plan, and that leaves, I guess, neighboring property owners no recourse if they don't like the actions that come out of site plan. So if we leave the orientation to site plan, Your Worship, then the neighboring property owners, in fact, will have no appeal process there for them. Whereas if we actually put it in the zoning bylaw, then if it is going to be appealed, it can be solved by the OMB.
Okay. We have a mover and a seconder. Do you wish to concur?
That's fine.
The seconder?
What are we proposing?
They're proposing you incorporate the change in the orientation. Sorry. We have... Pardon? Councillor Peter Angelo, want to qualify that, please? Just want
to... Your Worship, I didn't ask to change it. I guess what I asked was that it be included in the zoning bylaw. That's all.
To change it or to
Not to change it, Your Worship. I guess the way that it's proposed by staff right now.
As we have it then?
As we have it.
Yeah, okay, that's what the motion says. Okay. All right, so we're voting on it. Councillor Diodati?
As well, Your Worship, if I could ask for a friendly amendment regarding the staff looking into or pursuing the idea of, rather than road allowance, put that toward the west side of the Millennium Trail as well.
If it's within the reason or the grounds of the requirements for the roadway, do you want to make it subject to that? Maybe Mr.
Requirements to whom?
For the roadway, Mr. Hurlovich, maybe he might be able to address that if you'd like. Mr. Hurlovich, Councillor Diodati wants to make a friendly amendment to allow the possible contribution towards the Millennium Trail. Does that negate the requirement? Is there a basic requirement for a bicycle way, a pathway, a bicycle way, I should say?
Well, I think that if we could have staff look at that and report back, because I think the intention was that the Millennium Trail may serve more as a recreational feature, whereas the bike lanes on a road quite often serve as commuter routes. I'd like to be able to report back on that as opposed to making a definitive recommendation at this point.
Okay, so possible, Councillor, you might want to make it an inquiry, asking staff to look into it?
That's exactly what I'm doing, Your Worship, is just asking staff to pursue the idea and they can decide if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
It seems down there it doesn't really lead anywhere at this point, whereas it doesn't seem to me to be any more arterial than the Millennium Trail at this point. But I'd love to hear staff report back.
Okay, so we can incorporate that?
If we could.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Yes, through you, I just want clarification of the motion. Are we suggesting that the orientation of the building be changed or it stay the same way? I hear you saying the same way. I hear another motion that it's going to be changed, and I see grimaces on the face of the proponent with respect to what's happening here. What is the motion?
Okay, right now, Mr. Clerk, would you like to read the motion? We have a motion to move the recommendation as it's in the report. Is that right, Mr. Clerk?
You tell me. I agree with Councillor Thompson. I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
Okay.
I mean,
we have a mover.
Not me.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Fisher.
I
you move
the recommendation
as it's in the report, and we have a seconder to that, Councillor Maven.
I want to withdraw that, Your Worship. I think that it appears. I have in my notes here that I really wanted to change that. And really review that site plan location, whether they want to turn that or not.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your second. Do we have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Wing has a second to the motion. Okay, so Councillor Thompson, to answer your question, we have a motion to move the recommendation at this point.
As it is.
As it is.
Okay.
And then
is
we
there
have
a suggestion for discussion or dialogue with Mr. Sorokalit and the proponents to see if screening, all kinds of things can happen to satisfy his concerns?
It's a good idea. I think that's in the mover and seconder. We do have. I think that's a reasonable approach.
Absolutely.
Do you wish to allow that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
And the seconder? Okay. To sit down and try to mitigate the impact on the orientation and to see how the two parties can work together.
Okay. Again, through you, I heard comments about some restriction in the first phase to square footage. Can we have the planner tell me what exactly the suggestion is? The proponents from Niagara Square are suggesting some limitations, and what is your recommendation, and is that in the motion?
Mr. Hurlovich?
It isn't in the motion at the moment. There's only 75,000 square feet of the 450,000 square feet on the site that would actually be for small retail type developments. Likely they would be in the range of 5,000 square feet each. Some will be smaller. There might be a few that are larger than that. But our general discussions with the proponents in the past have been around that 3,000 to 5,000 square foot stores. But I don't know whether they have specific clients or merchants who would want a specific store size. So I'd almost rather try and get some additional information from them.
Okay, through the chair. So there is no limitation in the proponents, the smart centers proposal at this point?
Not for the small stores. A 75,000 square foot in total aggregate, which would be made up then, took 5,000 square feet, that would be 25 stores of about 5,000 square feet.
So, simple question. Is there limitations on what they want to do?
Not for store size, no.
Okay, I wanted to make that clear because we're going to have first-class development. Let's have it. Let's not have any limitations, because I agree that when I first saw this proposal, I thought, what a great thing for Niagara Square. It's not going to create that whole node area as a retail area, and I think they'll support each other. And I have one more question through to Mr. Holman, through the chair. If I could, where are we with our development charges? We have two massive developments on both sides of the Queenie, and we can't get the Ministry of Transportation to come up with the dollars to support this kind of development.
Mr. Holman?
Mr. Mayor, we have a report on the agenda tonight dealing with getting authorization to get a proposal from a consultant to start the process. We've started it at the staff level to collect information on projects like this, and we have some cost estimates. But we really need to get a consultant on board now to do the analysis. There's, as you know, a number of other issues that we have to roll into our development charge bylaw, including exemptions from our CIPs and brownfield areas, our new growth studies that kind of contradict each other. So we have to do a lot of work. Well, our new bylaw has to be in place by next July. So the work has to get done now.
Do you see us catching up in the development charges account to try to do some of these projects soon?
If the demand and the growth is there, and the opportunity for us to fund them from development charges doesn't exist, then we'll have to rely on the development community to pick up the difference. But from what I understand, and Councillor Fisher's talked about the proposals for development in the southwest corner of the city, I can see that there are large opportunities for growth, and the investments that we've made over the last year or two will come back to serve us well.
Okay. Councillor Carrion?
Just a quick question. Is there something that we don't know about this intersection? Is it a PST-free zone or something? Does the Ontario government not get PST from every sale that these people are going to put through at the Canadian Tire and at the new Walmart?
Yes.
It seems to me that this is a no-brainer. That PST generated in 6 months would pay the provincial government back the amount of money that we're asking them to put forward to help us improve the road. This just seems ridiculous that we'd even be having this argument.
And Councillor Carey, we've made that approach already, and we pointed it out to them as well. So,
well, somebody's not listening.
Yeah. Well, we've gone. Yes. Now, actually, we've had that discussion already, and we have had our member involved and the minister involved as well. So, but there's issues that exist that are far beyond those. So, anyway, we're still working towards that yet. So, we do have members of council. We have a motion before us. Do you want the motion read again for clarification, Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, just one other, and I don't know how you do this, but certainly the Amatios with their center, hopefully that could be included in some discussion so that the roadway is open. We've had enough problems on the other side of Montrose Road with businesses being cut off, and I don't want to see that happen in this case either.
Okay. All right. So noted. Okay, members of council? Yes, so the motion read again? Move the recommendation.
It's the recommendation outlined in your council report, which is one, that council approve the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a shopping center development on the land subject to standards recommended in this report, that the applicant enter into the necessary development agreements with the city and region to provide the required road upgrades outlined in this report prior to development occurring. The friendly amendment is that staff work with the developer at mitigating impacts related to the orientation of the building on the adjacent property.
Okay.
I would suggest that Councillor Diodati's maybe be a separate motion.
No, I agree with that, Your Worship. Question is site plan. Are the neighbors invited to be a part of the site plan?
Mr. Hurlovich?
Only if that's part of the motion.
Yeah.
There's only one, and we stuck the back in his yard.
No, but we've opened it up, and I'm certain, regardless if it's a side or a back of a building, that he would want to have some say in the trees and the kind of fencing. So could we add that they be a part? Yeah, okay.
add in qualified, please?
Yeah, that the neighbor, and is it just the one neighbor, I guess? Well, the neighbor, the directly adjacent neighbors be included in the site plan process.
Okay, that mover and seconder agree? Yes. Okay, all right, so we have that recorded, Mr. Clerk? Okay, any further comments? Having seen none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, unanimous. Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Diodati?
Your Worship, as I was speaking earlier, I'd like to make a second motion then that staff investigate the idea of the money that would go into bike lanes perhaps be redirected toward the development of the Millennium Trail directly to the west, on the west side of the canal.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Diodati, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. And any further discussion or comments on that motion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, would you introduce the next item on the agenda, please?
A meeting is now being convened to consider approval of a proposed plan of vacant land condominium at 3232 Montrose Road. Council will recall that a public meeting for comments on this application took place on April 28, 2008. Notice was not required under the Planning Act, but was given as a courtesy to the various commenting agencies and any individuals that provided comments or signed the sign-in sheets at the public meeting. Anyone who wants notice of council's decision or preserve their right to appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board shall leave their name on the sign-in sheets outside the council chamber.
And once again, I'm going to ask the Director of Planning to explain the purpose of the application. Mr. Hurlovich.
Thank you, Your Worship. This application, or this proposal before you tonight, is to actually ratify the draft plan approval for the vacant land condominium. The property is located on the east side of Montrose Road. We had public comments submitted with respect to this application a few weeks ago. Staff is now recommending support of this application. There are a number of conditions that would be attached to the draft plan approval. It would be for 70 townhouse units on the site. There was some concern raised by residents on Canterbury Drive to the south regarding trees that were cut on the municipally owned property, which is the stormwater drain between this property and the residential lots to the south. The developer has agreed to a planting program, and we would certainly work with staff, or staff's working with the developer to secure appropriate plantings on this site. We are looking at some plantings on the city lands. However, it is a municipal drain, and there is a culvert under that property, so that will limit the amount and placement of plantings.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hurlovich. And once again, excuse me, I'll ask if there's any questions from members of council. Okay. Council will hear from anyone other than the applicant who wishes to speak to the draft plan of vacant condominium, and I'd like you to come forward and state your name and address, please. Okay. Obviously, there's no one here, so council will then hear from the applicant or his representative. Please come forward.
Good evening, Your Worship, and members of council. Thank you very much. I'm a lawyer with the law firm of Broderick & Partners. My name is Ed Lustig, and I'm here appearing for the owner, 1736194 Ontario Limited. The owner is a local company owned by a local family, the Sacco family. Fred Sacco is here with me today. The Saccos have been involved in a number of developments in the city, but none involving residential development. This will be the first residential development that they've been involved with, but they've been involved in many community efforts and many businesses as well, and they have an excellent track record. They hope to be able to build 70 attractive condominium units as shown on this site plan, which vary in size and layout, and approximate size of the average unit is about 1,500 square feet with amenities. This is a welcome addition to the area because most of the area, along with some other condominiums, but most of the area is single family, so this is in keeping with the official plan, which calls for a mix of housing. The city actually approved this zoning 3 years ago, so this is the condominium plan part of it. And the applicant, the owner, has actually reduced the number of units from 75 to 70, which is a reduction in what was originally planned. So it's a less intensive development. Obviously, this development is something that we're very proud of, and that it'll provide this housing mix for the area. It'll also be built in a first-class manner. There's a 5% park dedication that will be provided. All of the servicing will be interior. In other words, the taxpayer won't pay for any of it. The servicing and any renewal of the servicing will be done by the condominium corporation, and its development will create jobs and assessment and taxes and funds for development charges and all those nice things. This evening's meeting is, of course, about the approval of the condominium plan, and staff has prepared a report that recommends it, and naturally we're supportive of staff's recommendation. It has 36 conditions attached to it. There are a couple of conditions that we take issue with, and I'll get to those in a moment, but we want to thank staff for the cooperation that they've shown in working with us, particularly Mr. Holman and Mr. Volpini from the engineering department and Mr. Wilson from the planning department. They've been helpful to us. The two conditions that we have a problem with are regional conditions, and they involve a 1-foot reserve requirement and a daylighting triangle. The two conditions are conditions 16 and 17. And our problem is that if those two things are given, the daylighting triangle and the 1-foot reserve, they'll result in the zoning of this property being sort of put out of whack because the setbacks would be changed, and we wouldn't be able to build the units that we have, and the plan would have to be reconfigured. It isn't normal for condominiums, which are private developments, to give up land for 1-foot reserves or for daylighting triangles, and my information from the city's planning department and engineering department is that none of the private condominiums in this area have had to do that, and so that this would be a first. We are prepared in the event that the council agrees with our submission regarding both of these matters to include in the agreement, the subdivision or the condominium agreement, with respect to the 1-foot reserve, that there won't be any connections. The backyards, or at least the houses along Montrose Road where this 1-foot reserve is being sought, those houses are internally oriented so that there is no connection to Montrose Road, and we're prepared to enter into an agreement that says that there will be no connection. And with respect to the daylighting triangle, the agreement that we're prepared to enter into in lieu of that would have us not build anything on the area that would be otherwise put forward to the region as a 5-meter daylighting triangle. So none of the other condominium projects in this area have had to give that up. We're already providing the region with a 10-foot widening for the road so that the road can be widened, and we think that that's satisfactory. All of the other conditions that have been put forward are fine with us. The region itself has written to the city recently. The planning department has a letter from the region withdrawing condition number 30, which is the archaeological study condition. We took that up with the region, and they agreed to delete that. So if you agree with our suggested motion to approve the report subject to deleting conditions 16 and 17, we suggest you also delete condition number 30 because the region has asked for that. We don't anticipate, frankly, that the region will question what we're doing. We've had some dialogue with the region in this regard, so that's our sense. With respect to the one issue that did become a controversy, Mr. Hurlovich has spoken to the fact that my client has met with the individuals who were concerned. As I mentioned a month or so ago when I was here for the information session, those trees should not and the brush should not have been taken down, but they were. But the fact of the matter is that what my client did was start up a little bit too early. That tree and the brush would have had to have been taken up for the work that's being done on the corridor for servicing in any case, and my client has agreed to remediate and to provide for the fencing that's required by the NPCA. So when all is said and done, Your Worship, I know this is getting late and there's a hockey game on tonight. We would ask you to respectfully approve the recommendation before you tonight and to delete conditions 16 and 17 and 30. And we appreciate very much your attention. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Lustig. We'll see if there are questions from members of council. Councillor Peter Angelo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a question directly for Mr. Lustig, but probably for staff. I did read the letter in regards to the archaeological study, so I do not mind deleting that. I was just wondering if staff could give their opinion on, yes, I guess, conditions 16 and 17.
Good. I was going to ask that. So either Mr. Hurlovich or Mr. Beeman who would like to address that.
Your Worship, I'll give it a shot. Staff received Mr. Lustig's comments and concerns. We certainly discussed them with the region. Mr. Lustig's correct. None of the other condominium developments on the street have been subject to that. Typically, daylighting triangles are taken where a road intersects another road. This is actually a driveway intersecting a road, so this is not any different than your own personal driveway, although it does serve 70 units. But you can appreciate it's a wide driveway with a center median. Because of the way most condominiums are developed with, in fact, the rear yards of these buildings will be facing Montrose Road. Typically there's a fence there, and the fence will actually curtail driveway access. But Mr. Lustig's indicated that he would be willing to have a clause in the condominium agreement that would probably suffice to serve the same purpose.
Okay, thank you. Good. Any other questions of Mr. Lustig? I'm sorry, Mr. Dren?
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could just further comment on the daylighting triangle, it really is something that we ask for all the time as well. And in this case, again, the region has indicated, I believe, in their correspondence that they would remove those conditions subject to a traffic impact study being completed. So I think it would be premature for us to withdraw that at this point unless we receive that study. Again, it's visibility. You have a 70-unit building, which means it's going to generate a lot of traffic, and you want to make sure that there's visibility going on to Montrose Road. So in that case, I would suggest that we wait for the region to clear the condition based on the traffic impact study. Just a suggestion on my part. So that's the only comment is on the daylighting triangle.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carrio and Councillor Thompson.
But Dave just said that they've agreed not to build on it. Now, unless the region wants to put up a corner store or something on it, they've agreed not to build on it, and they've agreed that the other condition that they're asking, they're not going to access Montrose Road. So they're going to address it with the region. They're not going to build on it. They're going to agree that they're not going to build on it. Isn't that accomplish the same thing?
Mr. Dren?
Again, it's between the region. I was just merely suggesting what we asked for, that we would ask for it, that we would want that security to say that there's not going to be a sightline obstruction. It was just really merely a comment that something that we would normally do.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Well, can we not approve the application if they're not going to build on it, and it would be the applicant's responsibility to get it through the region? If he gets it through the region, then we've approved it. If he doesn't get it through the region, then they're going to have to deal with the region on it.
Exactly.
We can remove it, and if he's not successful with the region, then he'll have to deal with it.
The region, thank you, Councillor Thompson. The region have the right to appeal this decision of council, but I'm virtually certain that they won't, given what I've told you this evening. And the fact is, contrary to what Mr. Grant has said, that this issue hasn't even come up with the other subdivisions in the same area. So we're being treated inconsistently with the other condominiums in this area.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions of Mr. Lustig? And having seen none, then the meeting with respect to the proposed draft plan of vacant land condominium is now concluded. Pleasure, Councillor. Councillor Peter Angelo. Okay. Councillor Thompson.
I would second the motion with the deletion. Is that
with the deletions?
Yep.
The 16, 17, and 30. Okay. Council's well aware of that. Any comments or discussions with regard to the motion? Okay. We have a motion for approval subject to those deletions. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Lustig.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Clerk, would you introduce the next item on the agenda, please?
The public meeting, the purpose of this public meeting is to receive information and allow public comment on the proposed subdivision plan for Deerfield Estates Phase 8, located at Kaler Road, west side, south of Lundy's Lane. Any person who wants notice of the future meeting or decision of council shall leave their name on the council sheets outside the sign-in sheets outside the council chamber.
And once again, I'm going to ask the Director of Planning to address this matter, if he would, please.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, this property is identified on the map on the screen in front of you. It's on the fronts onto the west side of Kaler Road. It's a large parcel. It's 12 acres north of Forest View Boulevard. It would be the extension of Parkside Drive. The lands are owned by River Realty and are part of a larger holding that they have in the area. The plan in front of you is for single-family, semi-detached, and apartment units. As I mentioned, it's 12.76 acres, 5.18 hectares. There would be 35 single-family dwelling units, and those would be zoned R1E zone. There are 13 lots for semi-detached houses, or they could also be 26 small single lots, same number of units, and that would be under the R2 zone and colored orange, although it kind of looks like light brown. And then the dark brown is an apartment zone, an R5B zone. It would allow up to 44 apartment units or townhouse units. This is intended to meet the density targets that have been set out, and therefore this is the reason behind this housing mix. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to obtain any public input, and that would be incorporated into Planning Department report to be presented to Council at a future date. There's no decision being made this evening. It's basically to inform Council and to obtain the comments of the public. It's a mandatory meeting under the Planning Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurwitz. And once again, I'm going to ask the clerk to actually to mention the notice that the date the notice was given.
Notice was given on May 9th, 2008. I believe there was a sign posted on the property, as the picture showed.
Thank you. And we have had an overview of the draft plan of subdivision. Does the applicant wish to come forward to discuss that further?
If there's any questions,
Okay. Well, there won't be any decision made this evening. Council will consider all input and recommendations from and recommendation report from staff at a future meeting. However, the applicant does have an opportunity to make his comments, and I noticed at this point the members of council would like to ask any questions. No? Okay. Well, anyone wishing to comment on the plan is certainly invited to come forward. No speaking are asked to give their name and address before offering comments, and as required by the Planning Act, be advised that failure to make an oral written submission at this public meeting prior to council giving approval or refusing the plan may result in the Ontario Municipal Board dismissing any appeal that they may file against the decision of council. So is there anyone here with regard to the application? Once again, there's no one here with regard to the application. Having seen none, then obviously the public meeting for the draft plan of subdivision is now concluded, and may I have a motion to refer the comments received at the public meeting to staff for recommendations for their review on the draft plan of subdivision. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Fisher. Okay, members of council, you've heard the motion. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you again. Thank you. Members of council, I have a few comments this evening. I'd like to begin by offering condolences on behalf of myself and members of council to the following: to Rita Puglia in our payroll division at City Hall on the passing of her mother, Margaret Krause; to Karen Canelli of our IS division on the recent loss of her father, George Sandalak; and to the family of Benny DiDomenico, who was a retired city employee. Our thoughts and sympathies are with your families as you mourn the loss of your loved ones. I'd like to continue by acknowledging some recent notable events in our community. Recently, the Canadian Corps Association Unit 104 on Ferguson Street held their 70th anniversary celebration on May 17th. I was pleased to be in attendance to offer best wishes on behalf of City Council to the members of this Canadian Corps unit on the auspicious anniversary. Also, I note our Assistant Chief Fire Chief is here, Mr. Jim Jessup, and recently, as you know, there was a recent event where there was a fire at Cavendish Manor, and our fire department responded with in a very timely manner and was able to evacuate all the residents without any loss of life, and they acted as a team of well-trained and professional responders. Sincere thanks to all those who helped to ensure that this was not as developing as a catastrophe, and my sincere congratulations to our unit for their work well done. I was pleased to join in greeting Prime Minister Harper recently during his visit to the Niagara region. It's always a pleasure to see the Prime Minister in the Golden Horseshoe, and I thank him for his continued attention to our needs and challenges. I'd like to mention as well some upcoming events in our community that would be of interest to members of council and residents. The City of Niagara Falls welcomes schools, corporations, sport organizations, and members of the community to participate in the 10th Annual World Challenge Day. And as you may be aware, the Challenge Day is a worldwide event with a goal encouraging everyone to break their daily routine by doing some physical activity for 15 minutes on Wednesday, May 28th. This year, the goal for Niagara Falls is to have 14,000 to 15,000 community members of all ages moving toward a healthy, active lifestyle. And to participate in the Challenge Day 2008, please contact Parks, Recreation and Culture Department at City Hall, extension 3339. Springlicious is coming to our downtown this weekend. It's an exciting beer, wine, and food expo, and will feature more than 35 vendors, a full lineup of musical entertainment throughout the weekend, and children's entertainment on Sunday. I invite residents and members of council to attend to support the efforts of vendors and businesses downtown to encourage community interest in Queen Street. The Springlicious Festival runs May 30th through to June 1st. On Tuesday, June 3rd, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee will be hosting their annual citywide student film festival. This year, the event will be held at the Queenston Heights Amphitheater and begins at 8 p.m. Student films have been submitted and will be awarded prizes in technical and fan favorite categories. And once again, I encourage members of council, students, and families to attend. Tickets can be purchased from the Mayor's Youth members at each high school or from the Mayor's office for $5 before June 3rd. The 125th anniversary of the city's Fairview Cemetery is being celebrated on Saturday, June 7th, and throughout the year by various recognition events. And on June 7th at 10 a.m., there will be an open house and dedication to commemorate the anniversary. There will be also displays, walking tours, and a memorial tree planting. And I hope that the residents and members of council will join me in acknowledging Fairview Cemetery's 125th anniversary. The 7th Annual Daniele Memorial Golf Tournament will take place on Sunday, June 8th at the Niagara Falls Golf and Country Club, and the tournament begins at 12 noon. I encourage residents who would like more information about the event or about supporting the Danielle Memorial Fund to contact Mike Daniele at 905-374-3915. This concludes my remarks for this evening. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, could we include the name of Mario Delenardo, who is a city employee here for probably 35 years, lived on Kitchener Street in Niagara Falls, passed away just last week, and I'd like to have condolences to his family.
We will. Thank you very much for noting that as well.
Your Worship.
Yes, Councillor Carrion.
Also, Your Worship, could we offer condolences to the family of Carl Young, who was a pillar of our community for many, many years?
Yes, we've already sent notification to the family, to all the family members, and thank you for bringing that forward as well. So we noticed the passing of Mr. Carl Young. Thank you. Okay. Move on to communications and comments of the city clerk. We have the Clifton Hill BIA as item number 1, the 2000 budget for the recommendation and approval of council. Moved by Councillor Fisher, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any comments or discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item number 2, Energy Conservation Week, requesting that May 25th to 31st, 2008 be proclaimed as Energy Conservation Week in the city of Niagara Falls. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you. As I would move the motion, and as a member of the Niagara Peninsula Energy Board, I've been asked to make a couple of comments about Energy Conservation Week, May 25th to the 31st, and this is something that Niagara Peninsula Energy takes very seriously, and as we all should be concerned about energy. There's a lot of talk and discussion about oil and gas and other issues for energy, but we've certainly had a long-standing concern about hydropower, and we're fortunate to be one of the centers probably in Canada who produce the power that we do, and have probably one of the most interesting projects underway by Hydro One at the present time. The board at Niagara Peninsula Energy certainly takes conservation seriously, and in the last year have spent $900,000 locally and $1.2 million corporately on energy conservation. They have numerous programs that entice and certainly support energy conservation. Just very quickly, some of the main ones, the Drummond Road rebuild, which was over $250,000 to increase the efficiency of our system by using the upgraded wiring, etc. Conserver Joe is a marketing program that goes out and attempts to get people to conserve energy, and one of the most popular ones is the refrigeration roundup, where anybody can call up the Hydro, an old refrigerator, and they will pick it up free of charge and dispose of it in an appropriate way. They have the Summer Sweepstakes, which is a contest to reduce your power by 10%, and there are prizes involved to reward you for that. Also, the Peak Saver program, where they will come and replace your thermostat free of charge. There's a little added negative to that, where they can control your power in peak areas with that type of thermostat. But anyway, if you need a new thermostat, that's probably a good way of getting one. And also, Every Kilowatt Counts is another promotion program to try to get people to conserve energy. One of the most popular is the Christmas Light Exchange program, and so far through this program they've spent $230,000 providing new Christmas lights, LED Christmas lights, to the public at no cost in exchange for the ones that people would turn in. So if you have some of the old lights and you want to get them changed for LED lights, which are less expensive, there's an opportunity to do that. In addition to that, they have people who go into the schools and give educational and information seminars to the school children regarding energy conservation awareness, and certainly the young people are the ones that really know what it's all about when it comes to energy conservation. It is our hope that all of the business people in the community, the government, industries, and the public alike will try to conserve energy, not only during Energy Week, but throughout the year. And if anybody wants any further information, please go to the website, www.nepi.ca, and on your desk you will find a light bulb, and already I've had a complaint, in spite of the fact that it's a free light bulb. Alderman Cario is complaining it's only a 15-watt bulb, so that's too bad. But we'll keep them warm with a T-shirt from Niagara Peninsula Energy, and I hope everybody will wear that and try to conserve energy on behalf of the Niagara Peninsula Energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. We have a seconder by Councillor Iannone. Any further discussion or comment? Having seen none, all those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. And Councillor Carey, that's a 15-watt bulb that represents actually gives a light of a 60-watt, 15-watt to 60-watt.
Just asking your worship if somebody was comparing us to a 15-watt light.
I don't think so. The next item on the agenda is Spina Bifida and the Hydrocephalus Association of Ontario requesting that the month of June be proclaimed as Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Awareness Month in the City of Niagara Falls.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Fisher, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any further comment or question? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any additional items for Council's consideration?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, we do have a requirement to fill some committee vacancies. I'm going to ask the clerk to make some comments with regard to this matter. Mr. Clerk?
Hopefully the report's self-explanatory. There are a few vacancies that have popped up in the last year and a half on various committees. Municipal Heritage Committee is a pretty straightforward one. We're making a suggestion that the runner-up from last year's vote be appointed. he's willing to take on that responsibility and has sat on the committee before. Arts and Culture Committee and Park and the City Committee, there are a number of vacancies from resignations. There have been some new individuals that have expressed an interest. We obviously have the tallies from the vote from last year and have given you an indication as to who were the runners-up as far as plurality. We do have ballots prepared if you want to have a vote on these or if you want to make some motions on it, whatever you see fit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. We have ballots. That's council to complete the ballots and submit them to the clerk. Okay. And while the ballots are being tallied, we'll have a ratification of Community Services Committee action. I'm going to count on Councillor Iannone as the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The following items are to be ratified from tonight's meeting of the Community Services Committee. The minutes of the April 28, 2008 meeting be approved, and that the minutes of the May 12, 2008 meeting be approved as amended. PD 2008 48 presentation of the Sylvia Place Market Feasibility Study Urban Marketing Collaborative. 1, that the committee accept in principle the recommendations of the Sylvia Place Marketing Feasibility Study prepared by the Urban Marketing Collaborative IBI Group and Bob Usher, that staff be directed to develop an implementation plan which will include a development phasing program, and that staff look at the external funding options and investigate the Section 37 opportunities, and that transit study consultants confer with the Urban Marketing Collaborative team to consider the possibility of a transit transfer station. R 2008-19 revision to the public art policy, that council approve the replacement of the current public art policy with the new public art policy, and that the public art advisory task force additionally include representation from the Niagara Falls Library, Municipal Heritage Committee, and the City Historian, and that the proposed public art policy additionally include a goal to encourage donations of local art or art collections so that the pieces can be kept within the community. R 2008-21, Niagara Falls Zero Tolerance Policy, the R-Zone, that Council approved the City of Niagara Falls R-Zone policy. TS 2008-32, Dock Street Parking Control Review, that a 30-meter extension of the permissible parking area on the northeast side of the Dock Street between a point 15 meters northwest of Welland Street and a point 45 meters northwest of Welland Street be approved. No. That doesn't sound right. Under new business, that planning staff review the policies for the downtown area to allow public art displays, sandwich boards, and outdoor cafes, other that the city clerk attend the in-camera meeting. And I would so move that, but I think that last D, second section, was repeated twice.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Iannone, seconded by Councillor Wing. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Move on to the consent agenda. Members of council. Yes, Councillor Fisher.
I would like to take out property tax rates, and I'm going to vote against it because I voted against the operating budget, which was 2.5% increase, and this reflects in this particular property tax rate, so I'm voting against that.
Okay. So we'll deal with item number 1 separately. Are there any other items you wish to deal with separately? We'll vote on the balance of those then. All those in favor?
Balance?
The balance? We want the balance of the items? All those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Now we'll deal with item number 1. With regard to property tax rates, Councillor Fisher, you want to make any further comments?
No, just that included in that is the operating budget, which I voted against, which was a 2.5% increase. And I voted against that.
So noted. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Wayne.
Thank you. My question was, how can we even set the property tax rates when we haven't passed the capital budget? Surely that will have some sort of impact on what the final rates will be.
Does not, but anyways, we can ask either Mr. I guess Todd, you get that, please?
The capital budget is independent of the operating budget in the setting of tax rates.
You have approved the operating budget, which approves the transfers to capital and the transfers to reserves and the various operating accounts. That is established. The capital budget will approve the spending moving forward.
Okay. Councillor Wing?
What if we wanted to put in some items for this capital, for this year, 2008, into capital that haven't been included?
Mr. Burton?
Through the chair, we're certainly going to be having capital budget discussion on June 9th. There will be a package prepared and distributed to the council members. It's an update to the existing budget binder. There will be opportunity to look at the individual projects and to actually add or delete or move forward or move back the projects that are listed there. If there are new projects that have not been referred to staff, then we'll be certainly open to receive them at that time or in advance in order to try to consider them to get them ready for that discussion. As far as new money coming from the operating budget to the capital budget, that has already been established. If you're actually considering to increase the contribution from operating budget to the capital budget, that could impact the tax rates. If that's what your consideration, we would need to know that immediately. Otherwise, we will have to delay the actual billing of the non-capped properties, and that's actually happening right now.
Okay. Councillor Wing?
Can we not do an interim billing again about setting the final tax rates?
Mr. Burton?
Through the chair, I believe that we're only allowed to do that once per year, and we usually do it at this time.
Okay. Okay. So we do have a request for the council approval of 2008 property tax rates. We have comments from Shirley Fisher, Councillor Fisher, Councillor Wing. Anybody else? Okay, opposed? Yes. Yes. Okay. Now we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Please raise your hands. 1, 2. We're moving the recommendation contained in the report on property taxes. So all those in favor, please raise your hands.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Okay. We're moving the recommendation contained in a property tax rate, establishing the tax rate F 2008-21, the first item. So we're moving the recommendation. So all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 3. The motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, there were a couple questions I had in regards to under the items that we cleared just a couple minutes ago in the consent agenda. Under 2008-29, I just have a question. There's a number of capital works projects in here. Are any of these capital works projects that we deferred? Do you know how we deferred our capital budget and projects? These are capital works projects. Have we deferred these, or Mr. Holman, did we already pass these last year?
Mr. Holman?
In the budget, we have.
I'm not sure I understand the question. These projects that we have tendered are being funded from our water main replacement program.
Okay, I'm just asking, we deferred this capital budget. Are these items in this capital budget?
Technically, they're being funded from utility budget, so it shouldn't affect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I move on to the clerk again, the results of the balloting. Mr. Clerk.
As mentioned, for Municipal Heritage Committee, Naveen Shahani. For the Arts and Culture Committee, the successful applicants are John Archibald, Wendy M. Sturgeon, Warren Dambrose, and Douglas Van Esselstein. And for the Park and the City Committee, Elizabeth Manker, Jean Teddy Whedon, and Don Johnson. So if you can make a motion to approve those appointments and the other recommendations contained in that report.
Moved by Councillor Wing, seconded by Councillor Ioannoni. Any further comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, move on to bylaws. Mr. Clerk, are there any additional bylaws or amendments to the bylaws for council's consideration? Having seen none, can I have a motion to introduce the bylaws? Bylaws be given a first reading. Moved by Councillor Peter Angelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Council has heard the motion. Any questions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Bylaws 2008-86 to 2008-94 read a first time.
I have a motion to give the bylaws a second and third reading, moved by Councillor Peter Angelo, second by Councillor Diodati. And once again, Council has heard the motion. Any further questions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? The motion is carried.
Bylaws 2008-86 to 2008-94 read a second and third time and passed.
Thank you. Is there any new business this evening? Yes, Councillor Wing.
Thank you. There's an article in today's National Post about a bill by Gord Brown. It's a private member's bill currently in the House of Commons that would allow the parents of seriously ill children to collect up to 52 weeks of EI benefits. And it was sparked by a lady in that area whose son had cancer, and she had to give up work in order to care for her son. Right now there's a compassionate care program under EI, but it only allows caregivers to receive up to 6 weeks worth of benefits, and that is on the condition that they provide a doctor's certificate that their loved one is not expected to live beyond 6 months. So it's a pretty tough thing for a parent to ask for. They want to hope, and what if a child develops cancer? The parent has to drive them to some treatment facility far beyond their community, can't look after this child and keep working. It quotes the president of the Childhood Cancer Foundation, who said the organization fields countless heartbreaking pleas for financial help from parents, many who are required to travel with their sick child to one of 17 facilities in Canada. Sometimes the foundation ends up picking up the funeral tab for as many as 40 families a year who, after all this, can't afford to bury the child they've just lost. I mean, this could be families in our community. So they said reforming this program along the lines of Mr. Brown's bill would fulfill an urgent need, and they've identified it as their number one issue. So I would like to move a resolution to the federal government in support of Gord Brown's private member's bill on this.
Moved by Councillor Wing, seconded by Councillor Iononi. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When she talks about families in this community, it's my own family. My niece is in recovery from 2 years of chemotherapy for childhood leukemia, and it's devastating having to travel back and forth to McMaster and knowing you can't go back to work, because when that time's done, you're not going back to work and leaving your sick child. So but for the grace of God, it could be us and our kids, so I'd be happy to second that motion.
Okay. Any further questions or comments by members of council? Having seen none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Diodati.
Yes, Your Worship. Real quick, I know you already mentioned it once, but the Matthew Daniele golf tournament, I mentioned, I was talking to his father, Michael, and he asked if this council would support it in any way that we could. So again, the date is Sunday, June the 8th at Niagara Falls Golf Club for anybody wanting to golf. And this, of course, goes to help children in the community, underprivileged and whatnot.
And certainly they do a great job at raising a lot of funds to help our community, so it would be appreciated. Thank you. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Thompson, and seconded by Councillor Carey. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Maybe put it in. I wasn't agreeing.